Chapter 1076. After attaining the crippled divine spirit body, what Ning Fan obtained was actually not all benefits. While the qualities of his primordial spirit, sea of consciousness and physical body were greatly improved, it also brought him some helplessness. Ning Fan was a 3 apertures ancient god. Theoretically, he could obtain 8 times the medicinal effect of the pills he consumed. However, for some unknown reason, after attaining the crippled divine spirit body, the effects of a small number of pills were greatly reduced. Among 100 types of pills, there would basically be 1 or 2 types of pills whose effects would be greatly reduced. Under normal circumstances, a pill Ning Fan consumed was equivalent to 8 times the effect of an ordinary person. However, if he encountered those types of pills whose medicinal effect was reduced, he would usually need to consume several or even tens of pills to achieve the same effect as an ordinary person. The reason why the medicinal effect of those pills would be reduced seemed to be because some of the ingredients in those pills contained medicinal ingredients that were beneficial to the crippled divine spirit body. Golden marrow corydalus, extreme jade immortal ginseng, silver leaf yin zoysia, 10-leaf purple essence, 100 tribulations star luo. Up until now, Ning Fan had discovered more than 10 types of medicinal ingredients. As long as the pills he consumed contained one of these medicinal ingredients, more than 90% of the medicinal effect would be directly absorbed by the crippled divine spirit body and be used to slowly evolve towards the postnatal divine spirit body that was still far away. The crippled divine spirit body was very capricious. It didn't care whether the owner of the body took the pill to heal or to cultivate. As long as the pills were beneficial to it, it would forcefully swallow them and snatch them to improve the cultivation speed of the crippled divine spirit body. Because the medicinal effect of the pills that were weakened were only 1%, Ning Fan could easily find the same type of pills to replace them when he was recuperating or cultivating. Even though the process was a little troublesome, it did not affect his cultivation and healing. Unfortunately, the immeasurable pill that was used to break through the bottleneck of the eternal immemorial realm contained the 10-leaf purple essence. Unfortunately, it was very difficult to find a substitute for the immeasurable pill. It was the most commonly used cultivation method by the ancient cultivators. Hence, every time Ning Fan consumed the immeasurable pill to break through to the eternal immemorial realm, more than 90% of the medicinal effect would be taken away by the crippled divine spirit body. If he was lucky, he could even pick about 10% of the medicinal effect of the immeasurable pill from the gaps between the teeth of the crippled divine spirit body and use it to cultivate towards the eternal immemorial realm. When Ning Fan was unlucky, he might not even be able to absorb half of the medicinal effects of an immeasurable pill. In some cases, he might not even be able to absorb 1% of the medicinal effects. The medicinal effect would be taken away by the crippled divine spirit body. If he had a surplus of immeasurable pills, Ning Fan would not mind spending most of the medicinal power to improve his crippled divine spirit body while only using a small portion of the medicinal power to improve his cultivation base. Unfortunately, the number of immeasurable pills he had was very limited. Under the weakening of the medicinal power, the progress of his cultivation in the divine, demon, and devil realms was very slow. Immeasurable immurable sect immeasurable Fan's heart. The Sea Spirit and Demid Yang sect of Divine of Sect, realm of the Fan of the Menghe immurable pills that stage Sea of Sect realm of Sect, since hand happened. The Meng. An immeasurable Meng pill had pills. Had pills. Was pill realm. The most popular pill in the illusionary world was the lower grade immeasurable pill, which belonged to the 9 transformations golden pill. The middle grade and upper grade immeasurable pills belonged to the 9 transformations Emperor pill and the 10 transformations Ancestor pill respectively. They were extremely rare, and the recipe was never passed down. A low-grade immeasurable pill could help a peak thought-shattering realm cultivator convert 1 tribulation's worth of magic power. If it was used by a new immortal venerable, 2 pills would be needed to increase 1 tribulation's worth of magic power. If it was used by a first tribulation immortal venerable, the number of pills would be doubled, 4 pills. If it was used by a second tribulation immortal venerable, the number of pills would be doubled. Ning Fan had obtained a total of 6,700 immeasurable pills. All of them were low-grade pills. What kind of concept was this amount of immeasurable pills? If an ordinary peak thought demolisher were to absorb 500 infinity pills, he'd be able to convert 500 tribulations into magic power and become a new immortal monarch. 6,700 pills were enough for He clan and Meng clan to nurture 13 new immortal venerables. However, due to the fact that the debilitated body of a deity was too stubborn, the amount of immeasurable pills he consumed on his body could only allow his cultivation base to produce around 100 tribulation magic power. There was still a huge gap between his cultivation base and 500 tribulations magic power. According to this cultivation speed, he still needed another 26 to 7,000 immeasurable pills to break through to the eternal ancient realm in all three of his cultivation bases. 26 to 7,000 immeasurable pills. Immortal Emperor level forces like the He clan that had a huge amount of immeasurable pills were only a minority. Most of the other Immortal Emperor level forces only had the same amount of immeasurable pills as the Meng clan. If he could obtain 1,700 immeasurable pills by annihilating an Immortal Emperor level force, Ning Fan would need to annihilate another 16 Immortal Emperor level forces to gather enough pills for his cultivation base to break through to the eternal ancient realm. Annihilating 16 Immortal Emperor level forces, this was just like a fantasy. Did he really think that Immortal Emperor level forces were cabbages that could be found everywhere? If it wasn't because the debilitated body of a deity was so stubborn, it certainly wouldn't be so difficult for us to break through to the eternal ancient realm. How can I obtain such a large amount of pills? It's not very practical to annihilate Immortal Emperor level forces. Could it be that I have to find the medicinal ingredients myself and concoct the immeasurable pills? Ning Fan's frown deepened. Immeasurable pills were the supreme treasures of cultivation in the eternal ancient realm. They were strategic resources. Very few cultivators in the eternal ancient realm would sell them. Most of the cultivators in the eternal ancient realm would immediately refine and consume the immeasurable pills once they get their hands on them. Only Immortal Emperor level forces would store a certain amount of immeasurable pills in their warehouses in order to strengthen their forces. Of course, it was impossible for them to store too many of them. After all, the cultivation of the immortal emperors of each clan also required a large amount of immeasurable pills. Immeasurable pills were 9 revolutions golden pills. There were many 9 revolutions golden pill refinement masters in the Great Humble clan. That was why each clan had a considerable amount of pills in reserve. The number of cultivators in the eternal ancient realm was also far more than the number of cultivators in the 4 heavens. In the 4 heavens immortal world, the amount of immeasurable pills that the immortal emperor level forces had was actually not as much as the Meng clan. Due to the scarcity of immeasurable pills, the difficulty of breaking through to the eternal ancient realm for the cultivators in the 4 heavens was far higher than that of the cultivators in the Great Humble clan. If the cultivators in the 4 heavens wanted to break through to the immortal venerable realm, they could not rely on the forces behind them. They could only rely on their own luck to accumulate enough immeasurable pills. They could either search for the medicinal ingredients and ask the few 9th revolution golden core pill refinement masters of the 4 heavens to concoct pills, or search for the cave dwellings of ancient cultivators and occasionally find some immeasurable pills. It was because the 9th revolution golden core pill refinement masters could concoct immeasurable pills that they had unimaginable appeal to the cultivators in the eternal ancient realm. In the past, the sect master of the pill sect could organize a huge anti-Ning alliance with his true immortal realm cultivation base. This was the proof of his appeal. As for the pill recipe, Ning Fan had it. The heaven-reaching cult did not sell the pill recipe of the immeasurable pill to the cultivators in the illusory dream world. Fortunately, Ning Fan had obtained the pill recipe of the low-grade immeasurable pill when he annihilated the He clan. Thus, he did not lack this item. In terms of pill concoction technique, Ning Fan was still not good enough to concoct the 9th revolution golden pill. However, the Great Humble clan did not lack pill refinement masters. He could just capture a gold core realm pill refinement master to concoct pills for him. Medicinal ingredients were the most troublesome part. In order to concoct a immeasurable pill, one would need to consume hundreds of types of 5 million years old spiritual herbs and 4 types of innate spiritual herbs as the main ingredients. The 4 main ingredients were 10-leaf purple essence, profound essence Rehmannia, 5 radiance cloud dew and 800 million een heavy wood. The other medicinal ingredients were still easy to find. No matter how rare they were, one could always find some of them. Only the 800 million yen heavy wood was the hardest to find. As the name suggested, the 800 million yen heavy wood was a yen heavy wood that had been formed for more than 800 million years. Only at this age could it attain innate medicinal power and become the main ingredient of the immeasurable pill. It took 800 million years for it to have the chance to take shape. It was not hard to imagine how rare it was. Every time 800 million yen heavy wood was excavated in the cultivation world, no matter how big or small it was, it could be sold at a sky-high price. It could even cause immortal venerables, immortal kings and immortal emperors to go crazy over it. If it's a slightly larger 800 million yen heavy wood, it would be enough to trigger a war between some immortal emperor's forces. It seems like it's also very difficult to concoct pills by myself. It seems like I can't be in a hurry to break through to the eternal ancient realm. Several days later, in the southern border grasslands, Tamu tribe. Ning Fan had committed 3 major crimes in the wood flame, sky flame and stone flame consecutively. His unimaginable achievements had not only shaken the 3 flames but also spread to the entire Great Bay Grassland. As a result, the people of the Great Bay Grassland were extremely afraid of the ghost-faced ferocious tide that appeared on the 3 Flames continent. He was afraid that the ghost-masked cultivator would leave the 3 Flame continent and return to the Great Bay Prairie after he was done messing around. According to the rumors, the ghost-masked cultivator had first killed Bai Lu Enlightened being at the Dabii Plains, then went to the Tri-Flames Plains to kill the 2 martial monarchs, He Zhu and Meng Zhu. Who could guarantee that the ghost-faced cultivator would not return to the grasslands to cause trouble? Apart from the celestial emperor of the Holy Mountain, there were only the 5 emperors of the Middle Continent and a few 6 tribulation celestial emperors who lived in seclusion. Not to mention the fact that one of the 5 emperors of the Middle Continent had been beaten half to death by Sovereign II. Even the celestial emperor of the Sacred Mountain at his peak was quite fearful of the words ghost-faced cultivator. To be able to kill immortal emperors, and to be able to kill 2 of them, how could he be ordinary? How could an immortal emperor be so easily killed? One should know that even a 7th and 8th tribulation immortal emperor would find it difficult to kill a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. Immortal emperors were known for being difficult to kill. Even if they were no match for them, they could still escape. Was his real cultivation base really just the venerated immortal realm that was rumored in the outside world? Countless experts expressed their doubts. Obviously, they did not believe it. They were more willing to believe that Ning Fan was an immortal emperor who had reached the peak 8th tribulation or even the 9th tribulation realm. That was why he could come and go as he pleased in the 3 Flame continent. That was why the 3 Flame Lords could not do anything to him. That was why the 2 immortal emperors could not even run away from him. Since this devil could come and go as he pleased in the 3 Flame continent, he could also come and go as he pleased in the Sacred Mountain. After all, the overall strength of the Sacred Mountain and the 3 Flame continents were basically equal. Those immortal emperors of the Sacred Mountain who had been living like princes all year round began to panic. Countless mausoleum guardians of the Sacred Mountain were sent out to secretly collect all the information about the ghost-faced cultivator in order to deal with any mishaps. However, most of the panic was concentrated in the circle of the major forces. In a small place like the southern border where one could easily forget about it, they actually did not have much of an idea about the terror of the ghost-faced cultivator. The existence of an ancient being was too far away from their lives. Besides, no one thought that a terrifying existence like the ghost-faced cultivator would attack a small force in the southern border. Would an eagle prey on ants on the ground? After the first round of the mausoleum seizing competition ended, all the tribes in the southern border returned to their normal lives. The second and third rounds basically had nothing to do with them. The martial law imposed on the ghost-faced cultivator had nothing to do with these small tribes. They should eat and drink. Why should they care about other people's business? If they had the leisure time, they might as well hurry up and complete the lightning sacrifice quota of each tribe and hand over the lightning to the holy envoys who came to collect the lightning. A storm swept across the entire Great Bay region. However, it did not affect the lives of those small tribes. Most of the tribes in the southern border were still living peaceful lives with occasional small fights. The only tribe that was not living a leisurely life was probably the Tamu tribe that was plagued with bad luck. In the past, the Tamu tribe was bullied by the other tribes because they had offended Great Emperor Lu Tuo. Later on, because of the arrival of an external cultivator, the Tamu tribe suddenly rose to power and actually showed signs of becoming the #1 force in the southern border. Unfortunately, not long after that external cultivator came, he destroyed the punishment ring and became a sinner. He even colluded with the master of the blood martial weapon and went on a killing spree outside Luli City in the Middle State. Several immortal emperors were severely injured and more than 10 immortal venerables and immortal kings were killed. Ning Fan ran away. The master of the blood martial weapon was captured. The Tamu tribe became Ning Fan's scapegoat. Ever since Ning Fan's death, the Tamu tribe had been condemned by various parties. They claimed that the Tamu tribe was the accomplice of that evil external cultivator. They should be punished severely just like the master of the blood martial weapon. There was even a group of cultivators from the Holy Mountain who came to the Tamu tribe to punish them with anger. However, just as they were about to announce the punishment, an unexpected immortal emperor suddenly came to the Tamu tribe. Under his protection, the Tamu tribe did not suffer any punishment from the Holy Mountain. They were just given a verbal warning by the people from the Holy Mountain. That immortal emperor who came to protect the Tamu tribe was actually Great Emperor Lu Tuo. Among the 5 emperors of the Middle State, Tian Du, Bai Hua, Gu Ling, and Buddha Sob were all severely injured by the master of the blood martial weapon when they were chasing after Ning Fan. Only Emperor Lu Tuo, who had left Luli City in advance, was smart enough to avoid the disaster. Everyone in the world knew that Emperor Lu Tuo had been suppressing the Tamu tribe for many years. However, no one expected that when the Tamu tribe was in danger, it was Emperor Lu Tuo who spoke to the envoys from the Holy Mountain and protected the Tamu tribe. The simple and honest people of the Tamu tribe soon forgot about Emperor Lu Tuo's bullying in the past and began to thank him for saving their lives. Outsiders, on the other hand, secretly guessed that Emperor Lu Tuo must have a scheme for his unreasonable actions. As for what his scheme was, no one knew. In short, no one would think that Great Emperor Lu Tuo, who had been bullying the Tamu tribe for many years, would suddenly find his conscience and become the protector of the Tamu tribe. All in all, with Emperor Lu Tuo's protection, even though the Tamu tribe was being condemned by the public, they did not face any major disasters. Not far away from the Tamu tribe were dozens of short mountains. Emperor Lu Tuo was sitting cross-legged and meditating on the peak of one of the mountains at the center. He was comprehending the profound laws of heaven and earth. Outsiders were not allowed to climb this mountain. Ever since he showed up to protect the Tamu tribe that day, Emperor Lu Tuo had been staying here. He meditated day and night without meeting anyone, and no one dared to disturb his peaceful cultivation. Some people said that Emperor Lu Tuo was planning a big game of chess. He wanted to ruthlessly scheme against the Tamu tribe. That was why he was staying here. There were also rumors that Emperor Lu Tuo was just waiting for someone in this mountain range. Today, an uninvited guest appeared in the mountains not far away from the Tamu tribe. He ignored Emperor Lu Tuo's ban and climbed this mountain. It was a silver-haired cultivator with a ghost face. The moment he climbed to the peak of the mountain, Emperor Lu Tuo opened his eyes and slowly rose to his feet. He cupped his fists at the ghost-faced cultivator. Recently, he had heard many things about this ghost-faced cultivator. It was impossible for him not to know about it. The others did not know who this ghost-faced cultivator was. However, he was good at scheming and he had some guesses. Fellow Taoist is finally here. It has only been a few months, but fellow Taoist's name has already spread across the 2 regions. Countless old monsters of the 3 flames and the sacred mountain are unable to eat and sleep in peace. I have already expected that fellow Taoist would have extraordinary means, but I have still underestimated you. Fellow Taoist's means are not just extraordinary. They are simply world-shocking. If I'm not mistaken, fellow Taoist's current strength should already be above mine, right? Emperor Lu Tuo's eyes narrowed slightly and said with a smile. Deep inside his heart, however, he was not as calm as he seemed on the surface. Instead, he was filled with turbulent waves. He could feel an extremely heavy pressure coming from Ning Fan's body right now. You knew that I would come? Ning Fan gave Emperor Lu Tuo a meaningful look. The reason why he passed by the Tamu tribe was because he wanted to see if this force that had some karmic ties with him would be punished because of him. However, he did not expect to see great Emperor Lu Tuo here. I wasn't completely sure that fellow Taoist would come. I just wanted to try my luck to see if I could meet the ghost-faced cultivator who has risen to fame today. That's why I stayed in the Tamu tribe. I would like to apologize to fellow Taoist and ask for your forgiveness. Emperor Lu Tuo said with a smile. Forgiveness? Ha! You used me to get rid of that troublesome disciple of yours and caused me to have no choice but to form karmic ties with the dead emperor. This debt doesn't seem to be something that can be resolved with just an apology, right? Ning Fan asked meaningfully. Fellow Taoist must be joking. Of course, I won't expect fellow Taoist to forgive me with just a few words. However, if I give this to you, it will be enough. Emperor Lu Tuo flipped his hand and took out a jade box that gave off a fiery aura and passed it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He received the jade box and scanned it with his spirit sense. Then, he was slightly surprised. There were actually 4 complete innate fire spirits. They were not the problematic fire spirits that Emperor Lu Tuo had extracted from his own cultivation base. Instead, they were the newly born fire spirits that Lu Tuo had refined for countless years but had yet to devour and refine. Ning Fan had devoured an innate fire spirit before this. If he devours these 4 spirits, the grade of his devil flames would have a great chance to rise from the 12 abstinence grade to the innate devil flames. This old man Lu Tuo was really generous in asking for his forgiveness. It's not enough. Ning Fan said indifferently. Emperor Lu Tuo's eyes narrowed slightly. Then, he laughed and said. I was just using someone else to do my dirty work. I just schemed against fellow Taoist once. Fellow Taoist really has a big appetite. Forget it. If fellow Taoist thinks that it's not enough, I still have other compensations that I can give you. In addition to this, it will be enough. Then, he took out another jade box and gave it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan scanned the second jade box with his spirit sense. To his surprise, the second jade box contained 50 mid-grade immeasurable pills. The medicinal power of a mid-grade immeasurable pill was equivalent to 100 low-grade immeasurable pills. The price of 50 mid-grade immeasurable pills was equivalent to the total value of 5,000 low-grade immeasurable pills. In fact, it was even slightly higher. To any ancient force, this item was a rare and valuable item. It was enough to create 10 new immortal venerables. To Ning Fan now, it was still useful. However, it was still not enough to erase the scheme he had in the past. Once? No. You schemed against me a total of 3 times. You used someone else to do your dirty work 3 times. Killing Bai Lu was just one of them. The first time I used someone else to do my dirty work was when I just arrived here. You tried to make things difficult for me in the Tamu sect. At that time, you insisted on removing my Zhang Yu's veil, and made things difficult for me regarding the punishment. In the eyes of others, you were the one who bullied a junior and a weak Tamu sect without caring about your status. It was a sign of your narrow-mindedness and hatred towards external cultivators. However, that was just your disguise. Your tolerance is far greater than what others imagine you to be. You are also more shrewd than what others imagine you to be. This is the first time you put on a disguise. When you schemed against me, you also schemed against Great Emperor Gu Ling. I don't know why you wanted Gu Ling to be the peacemaker of this matter. Perhaps, you just wanted Gu Ling to say the words 5-colored medicine soul from his mouth to achieve some unknown goal. Lu Tuo's eyes flashed with a strange light as if he did not expect that Ning Fan could see through so many things. The second time you used someone else to do your dirty work was during the first round of the written test when I was seizing the mausoleum. You first destroyed my results and then used the stone flame volcano to suppress me. At that time, I just thought that you were trying to make things difficult for me by hook or by crook. Later on, I understood it. When you schemed against me, you might not have set up a trap for the heaven capital. You knew that the heaven capital was looking for someone who could see a perfect result. Thus, you destroyed my results. Because my results in the written test were 0, the others rarely paid attention to me. The only one who paid attention to this matter was the heaven capital Great Emperor, who thought that he had hidden himself well. You also gave me an innate fire spirit. It seemed like you were going to kill me, but you might have purposely left me a chance to escape. I don't know what you are plotting against the heaven capital Great Emperor. If it wasn't for your scheme, the heaven capital Great Emperor probably wouldn't have sent me an invitation to the ancient Buddha gathering. You might be the one behind this. I'm guessing that the ancient Buddha gathering is also part of your scheme. However, the one you schemed against is not me but heaven capital. Unfortunately, I missed the ancient Buddha gathering because I had other important matters to attend to. It seems like some of your secret plans have failed. Lu Tuo let out a soft cry of surprise. He did not expect that Ning Fan would also be able to figure out the scheme of the heaven capital Great Emperor. Then, for the third time, you used me to get rid of Sha Bai Lu. You continued to build up my reputation in order to arouse Sha Bai Lu's interest in killing me. However, that foolish man didn't even know that all of this was just a scheme of yours to kill him with a borrowed knife. It was a great scheme of yours to get rid of the reincarnated spirit body of the Death Emperor. I don't know how you formed the karmic ties with the Death Emperor. I only know that you dragged me into this without permission and transferred your karmic ties to me. Or perhaps, what you are afraid of is not the Death Emperor's scheme but the flame ancestor in his body. Lu Tuo frowned slightly, but he did not refute Ning Fan's words. After a long time, he smiled bitterly and said, "Sure enough, I can't hide anything from fellow Taoist. You're right. I didn't get someone else to do my dirty work once. Instead, I did it thrice. Since fellow Taoist already knows everything, it would be rather embarrassing for me to deny it. Compared to the other supreme beings, you seem to be the most afraid of the flame ancestor." Ning Fan said meaningfully. Hee. How can I not be afraid? Being targeted by an existence like the flame ancestor, no matter how many lives I have, it won't be enough. Emperor Lu Tuo laughed and changed the topic. Could it be that the destruction of your cultivation base by immortal concubine Zhang Yu in the past was also an outcome that you deliberately created? You would rather destroy your own cultivation base to avoid the flame ancestor's scheme, huh? You're really a cruel and merciless person. You can even be so cruel to yourself. Hee. Compared to becoming a part of someone else's reincarnated spirit body, I would rather be a free and unfettered six tribulation immortal emperor forever. Perhaps one day, I will die due to the great heavenly tribulation because my cultivation base can no longer improve. However, dying a natural death like this is still better than being puppets like the Death Emperor and the Light Buddha. Do their cultivation bases really belong to them? Heh. If I wanted to, the flame ancestor wouldn't have chosen the Death Emperor as his body in the past. The current master of the sky flame would probably be me. However, I don't want to lose my freedom. Thus, I made use of immortal concubine Zhang Yu and destroyed my own cultivation base. After that, all the schemes that I've been plotting for countless years are just to survive in the gaps of this grassland. I'm meat on someone else's chopping block. What can I do? If fellow Taoist has been schemed against by a powerful being that you can't resist, you can more or less understand my feelings. Speaking of which, you seem to be a part of the scheme of a certain supreme being of the Great Inferiority. This Great Inferiority grassland, this sacred mountain, these three flames and the entire Supreme Pill's sacred region are full of schemes between people. It's sad and lamentable. Fellow Taoist, do you know that one of the 5 venerated beings of the Great Inferiority grassland is called Afeng? Her profession is a songstress and she takes pleasure in manipulating the sorrow and joy of the people. Do you know how many people in this grassland are just created by her illusory technique? They aren't real but they don't know it. Do you know that even the master of the blood martial weapon, who was once the strongest person of his generation and was equally famous as the Death Emperor and the Light Buddha, was just created by a single illusory technique of that songstress? Do you know that the songstress had already set her eyes on you the moment you stepped into the Supreme Pill's sacred region? Supreme 10Bs isn't a good person. There's another person among the 5 venerated beings of the great inferiority. He takes the name Ox Ghost and makes VATS as his profession. He mingles in the streets and his real purpose is to comprehend the Tao of reincarnation from the round mouth of the water vat. If he just wants to comprehend the fortune of heaven and earth by himself, he will be harmless to others. However, he is not a good person at all. Fellow Taoist seems to have a disciple who was born in the southern border, right? When that disciple of yours was young, he witnessed his mother dying under the stone flame volcano with his own eyes. He has a monstrous hatred towards the stone flame volcano, and because he hates his own cowardice and incompetence, he split his personality. Do you know that this is actually the result of Supreme Ox Ghost's deliberate actions? There will be a day when that disciple of yours achieves his Tao and dies after being plucked by that old man Ox Ghost. Isn't that sad? There's another person among the 5 venerated beings of the great inferiority. He took the name of Medicine Master and gave alms to all living beings while he was still alive. He was respected by countless people of the great inferiority and offered incense for many years. It has been passed down from generation to generation and became a custom in this place. That person has a kind appearance but an evil heart. He is not worthy of being called the good corpse of a saint. The radiant Buddha is only his reincarnated spirit body and a stepping stone for him to return to the cultivation world. Have you heard of this rumor? Back then, immortal concubine Zhongyu entered the Supreme Pill's sacred region and beat the radiant Buddha who had a shallow cultivation to the point of half-death. After the incident, not only did the radiant Buddha not hate Zhongyu, he even cultivated his body as a Buddha and fell in love with that evil woman. When that evil woman perished along with the ancient heavenly court in the outside world, the radiant Buddha sadly rushed out of the sacred mountain. It became a popular story for a period of time. The people of the world even wrote a poem to praise the radiant Buddha. It was praising the radiant Buddha for being a Buddha cultivator but having feelings. Unfortunately, the so-called infatuation with Zhongyu was just a facade. He only coveted Zhongyu's special cultivation technique. That's all. After Zhongyu died and his plan failed, he naturally became depressed. He actually never took half a step out of the sacred mountain mausoleum. However, this depression has nothing to do with any bullshit feelings. One of the 5 Supremes conspired against the fire spirit race that was sealed underground. On the surface, he conspired against the sword ancestor of the Skyflame Corpse Mountain. The Death Emperor was his puppet and the Triflames were his toys. Countless Triflames elites who obtained the Golden Flame ancestral token were all within his calculations. His hand even extended from the Triflames to the grassland. In order to become a saint, he did not hesitate to betray the Southern Alchemy Saint. After the Southern Alchemy Saint died unexpectedly, he made a bet with the Medicine Buddha. The two of them divided the Supreme Pill's sacred region and created the structure of the Triflames and the Sacred Mountain. What a pity, what a pity. He schemed against this old man but was cleverly avoided by me. He could only settle for the second best and chose to possess the Death Emperor. He schemed against the Sword Ancestor but that Sword Ancestor was transcended by you, causing the matter of obtaining the Sword Ancestor's Supreme Sword Tao to go up in smoke. What a satisfaction, what a satisfaction. The 2 most shameful miscalculations of the first Flame Ancestor in his life happened to the 2 of us. Isn't it great? The Triflames and the Sacred Mountain are just a chessboard for the 4 Supremes. They are competing and fighting to see who can obtain the Southern Alchemy Saint's relic in the end. They are the first to break through the ancient grand cultivation realm and the first to become a saint. What a pity, what a pity. These 4 people are actually still within the Southern Alchemy Saint's calculations. The Southern Alchemy Saint died miserably. There is no record of this in the history of Debay, but I still found out the cause of his death through some channels. The Southern Alchemy Saint was born in the desolate ancient immortal realm of the origin world. He was the messenger sent by the desolate ancient immortal realm to retrieve the number 1 immortal emperor of the primordial era, the Sword Ancestor's corpse. Unfortunately, the Southern Alchemy Saint failed to retrieve the Sword Ancestor's corpse. Instead, he was severely injured by the sword ancestor. In his weakened state, the evil corpse betrayed him, causing the Tao mountain to collapse. Even the supreme pill's sacred region he created was lost in immortal Emperor Zido's illusory world. However, how could the Southern Alchemy Saint be willing to accept that? Hence, he plotted and schemed. He wanted to take revenge. It's fine if the flame ancestor is living an ignoble life. However, if he covets to become a saint, then one day, he will fall into the trap set up by the Southern Alchemy Saint before his death. Cultivation, cultivation, cultivation. What exactly is this truth? Each and every one of them is a hypocrite. Is it possible for them to cultivate the true truth? I don't believe it, but I don't have the right to criticize them because I am also one of those hypocrites. I am a despicable person who lives an ignoble life and uses unscrupulous means. Now, I have told fellow Taoist many secrets. I'm sure they will be helpful to you. Can you treat this as my third compensation to fellow Taoist? Emperor Luo Tua no longer said anything. Instead, he stared at Ning Fan deeply, waiting for his answer. Ning Fan's expression remained unchanged, but his heart was in turmoil. In the past, he felt that there was a layer of mist in the Debay clan that he could not see through. However, with Emperor Luo Tuo's reminder today, he immediately understood where this mist came from. So that's how it is. It turns out that every single plant and tree in the entire Debay clan is being schemed by the saints and quasi-saints of the Debay clan. With such complicated schemes and people's hearts, it was truly a terrifying place. Ning Fan suddenly felt a little bored. He actually could not bring himself to hate Lu Tua, who was a true despicable person who dared to speak the truth. Even though Emperor Luo Tua had used him, he always had a sense of propriety and never crossed Ning Fan's bottom line. Now that he told Ning Fan the truth and gave him compensation, it helped Ning Fan to clear up the mist in front of him. Given Ning Fan's style of doing things, he was already too lazy to deal with Lu Tua. This person's intelligence is like that of a demon. He even knows Ning Fan's character very well. This person is also good at seeking fortune and avoiding calamity. The fact that he could survive the schemes of many supreme beings from the ancient times until today was enough to prove his capabilities. This person is even more ruthless and decisive. In order to protect himself, he was even willing to destroy his own Tao cultivation foundation like a warrior cutting off his own wrists. Such courage is not something that ordinary people can have. This person can be said to be the most outstanding person below the many supreme beings. In Ning Fan's opinion, this person's innate potential is much higher than the light Buddha and the dead emperor. I have indeed received your compensation. However, the way you pointed me out in the end was also because you wanted to use me to deal with some supreme beings, didn't you? Even though your Tao foundation has been destroyed, your ambition to compete with those supreme beings for the fortune is still there. You are really a despicable person. Emperor Luo Tua laughed heartily. He did not feel insulted by Ning Fan's words at all. From today onwards, the grudges between us will be written off. However, if you plot against me again, I can't guarantee that I will let you continue to live. Ning Fan said expressionlessly. Ha! I can't guarantee that. However, I can guarantee one thing. Even if I plot against you again in the future and implicate you, I will certainly have a sense of propriety. I won't let the situation become so serious that I will become your enemy. I hope you can do that. Fellow Taoist, if you have time, you can come to my imperial peak as a guest. I will certainly welcome you with open arms. Ha, this conversation with fellow Taoist has really made me feel very satisfied. It's fine to be your guest as long as you aren't afraid of being implicated by my identity as an external cultivator. However, if I go to your imperial peak as a guest, I hope that fellow Taoist can meet me in your true form instead of using a clone to talk to me. Ning Fan gave Emperor Luo Tua a deep look and left in a flash. He had already confirmed Ta Mu's safety and resolved the karma between him and Emperor Luo Tua. There was no point for him to stay here any longer. A long time after he left, Emperor Luo Tua finally heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he smiled bitterly. That young man really has terrifying eyesight. He could actually see through the clone of my flame ancestor's spirit-splitting technique. Sigh. I was too fearful of him. That's why I only dared to come here with my clone. I was afraid that he would be stubborn and ignore my attempt to make up for it and kill me. Now, it seems like such a backup plan is a little unnecessary. That young man's karma is very clear. As long as he doesn't cross his bottom line, it's not impossible to reconcile with him. To be able to kill 2 sovereigns in a row, I'm afraid he's one in 100 generations among the ancient immortal venerables. This kind of aura is really oppressive. My avatar's back is actually drenched in cold sweat. The successor of the ancient chaos sect is really no small matter. The descendants of the Lie origin sect are really terrifying. It's indeed the wisest decision to bury the hatchet with that young man. Next, let's see if that young man is more skillful or if that female singer has hidden her true strength better. That young man is wrong. In my entire life, the person I fear the most is not the flame ancestor but that female singer. Bang! A loud explosion resounded. Emperor Luo Tuo's body exploded into traces of fiery light and dissipated between heaven and earth. At the same time, Luo Tuo's true body, who was far away in the middle state, received the memory of reconciliation from his clone. He heaved a sigh of relief. He was the person who hid the deepest among the 5 emperors of the middle state. He was also the shrewdest person among them. The shrewdness of the other 4 emperors could not be compared to his at all. They would never think that the ghost-faced cultivator who shocked the world would be Ning Fan. They also would not know that if they do not reconcile with Ning Fan now and resolve the karma, they would definitely face a great disaster in the future. Let's see which of the great emperors of the middle state this young man will deal with first. Hee hee. Those 4 idiots had already gone after that ominous star that day. Especially that idiot from the 100 Flowers sect. He originally had an alliance with that ominous star, but he was actually stupid enough to betray the alliance. My choice is indeed correct. If I don't avoid the incident in Lioli City and attack this young man as well, with his ruthlessness, it's impossible for me to reconcile with him today. Night fell on the middle state. In the darkness of the night, a silver-haired man with a ghost face arrived at the border of the middle state. He did not immediately enter the middle state to seek revenge from the few great emperors of the middle state. Instead, he went underground to look for the 100-Li stone dragon that was abandoned deep underground. It was the devil beast of Devil's son Mengzhen. It was the pitiful beast servant who had been forcefully controlled by Ning Fan's illusion technique and killed his master with his own hands. Today, the 100-Li stone dragon had yet to break free from the control of Ning Fan's illusion technique. It was in agony at every moment. It wished that it could die together with its master. It wished that it could avenge its master and kill Ning Fan. However, under the illusion, it was unable to sacrifice itself to its master, nor could it avenge its master. Because of the illusion, it had no choice but to obey the enemy's orders. He could neither live nor die. Ning Fan dived into the ground and arrived in front of the stone dragon. He who had already cultivated the communication technique of all living things realm could easily hear the cries of sorrow in the stone dragon's heart. Do you still hate me? Do you hate me for killing your old master, Mengzhen? Moo. This was the roar of sorrow in the heart of the 100-Li stone dragon. It was its resistance to the words, master. It did not have an old master or a new master. It was also impossible for Ning Fan to be its new master. In this life, it would only recognize Mengzhen as its master. The king in its heart was only Mengzhen. When he opened his eyes again, they were filled with coldness. I have a piece of news to tell you. Not only did I kill the devil's son Mengzhen, but I also killed the immortal emperor of the Meng family and imprisoned everyone in the Meng family as incense slaves. Do you hate me even more now? Moo. The 100-Li stone dragon roared even louder. That sad roar contained deep feelings for the Meng family. It was filled with intense hatred for Ning Fan. Unfortunately, cultivation is such a cruel thing. You all attacked me first and wanted to kill me. Therefore, you all have to pay the price. You are very loyal, which made me admire you. However, this admiration is not enough to make you work for me. I rarely have a deep conversation with people. This is my first time talking to a giant beast that I can't speak. I can always control you with my illusion technique and order you around for the rest of your life. However, I'm more willing to give you two other options to free yourself from this endless pain. Either you forget your old master and worship me as your new master, or I will give you the chance to sacrifice yourself for your master. It was the first time Ning Fan broke free from the illusion technique since he controlled the 100-Li Stone Dragon. As soon as the 100-Li Stone Dragon's illusory technique was broken, it regained its freedom. The first thing it did was to use every bit of strength in its gigantic body to ram towards Ning Fan with all its might. Its intention could be seen through even without the communication technique of all living things realm. It did not choose the first option but the second one. It was just a giant beast that could not understand human language. However, it had more integrity than many people in the cultivation world. Even though both of them were enemies, Ning Fan still could not hide his admiration for this beast. Unfortunately, he could not let the tiger return to the mountain just because he admired it. If he shows mercy to it for a moment, it would probably incur the beast's crazy revenge at all costs. If he still could not subdue this beast in the end, he could give it a dignified release. He did not retaliate, nor did he put up any defenses. Instead, he allowed the stone dragon to charge at him recklessly and stood firm in the collapsing ground. He was unscathed. The force of the stone dragon's charge was comparable to that of a third tribulation immortal king. It could not hurt Ning Fan at all. The 100-Li Stone Dragon was shocked, bitter, and sorrowful. It was not Ning Fan's match. It could not avenge its master. It was impossible. Meng Zhen was dead. The Meng family was destroyed. Its home was no longer there. The stone dragon suddenly stopped attacking Ning Fan. Instead, for the first time since it was controlled by Ning Fan, it lowered its gigantic head and let out a low roar. It did not lower its head because it was afraid of Ning Fan's submission. It was just grateful for Ning Fan's mercy for allowing it to die in a dignified manner instead of being controlled by an illusion technique. Ning Fan slowly closed his eyes. Then, he heard a loud rumbling sound of the ground collapsing. The stone dragon destroyed its own demon core. It lost all of its cultivation base. In the end, with its mortal body that had lost its cultivation base, it crashed into the underground rock stratum and died. It sacrificed itself for its master. It would never yield. At this moment, the entire middle province was shaken by a strong earthquake. It shocked many people who lived near the border. However, the earthquake subsided very quickly. No one knew what caused the earthquake. However, because of the earthquake, the ground that stretched for 100 li outside the border of the middle province collapsed. It seemed to be the result of the collapse of a large amount of underground rock stratum. Some cultivators who were patrolling the border at night wanted to go underground to investigate. However, they could not reach the depth of the collapsed rock stratum and could only give up. No one knew that in the depths of the underground, there was a ghost-faced cultivator who had a terrifying reputation. In the darkness, there were countless rock stratum, and he was pouring wine as a sacrifice for a fallen beast. Then, Ning Fan breathed out a mouthful of devil flame and burned the giant corpse of the stone dragon. He buried the corpse in the fire, and the remains of the stone dragon disappeared in smoke. Then, he opened his Fu-Li spirit wheel and absorbed something from heaven and earth into his spirit wheel. If there is an afterlife, I will find a wise master. Speaking of which, with my ancient demon cultivation base, I am already qualified to cultivate the second spirit wheel of the 5 spirit wheel technique. Unfortunately, I haven't found a suitable place to cultivate. The environment required to cultivate the second spirit wheel is very harsh. Ning Fan's figure flashed and left the underground. The night became darker. The clouds and mist of the Bone Spirit Mountain covered the moonlight in the sky. A ghost-faced human figure stealthily sneaked into the mountain. Just like that, he used the chaotic world purple light to disrupt the layers of restrictive spells of the Bone Spirit Mountain and easily entered the depths of the mountain. In the entire Bone Spirit Mountain, only the great Emperor Bone Age could sense the arrival of the intruder. In the forbidden stone room of the Bone Spirit Mountain, the Bone Spirit Emperor, whose physical body was destroyed and only his primordial spirit was left shivering slightly. Then, he turned his head with a trace of fear. Behind him, there was a silver-haired cultivator with a ghost face. Ghost face cultivator. Now that he had lost his physical body and his primordial spirit was severely injured, the cultivation base that the Bone Spirit Emperor could exert was only equivalent to that of an ordinary 5-tribulation immortal king. The other party was the ghost face cultivator who killed 2 emperors in a row and shocked the world. You have 2 choices. Become my Joss Flame slave or die. Ning Fan's eyes were emotionless. Naturally, he would not be polite to the Bone Spirit Great Emperor who chased after him that day. He was already showing mercy by giving his Joss Flame slave a way out. I have a condition. If you can withstand one of my attacks, I will agree to become your Joss Flame slave. If you can't do it, I will never submit to you even if I have to die. The Bone Spirit Emperor's soul almost left his body. He forcefully suppressed the fear in his heart and tried to maintain his dignity as an immortal emperor. His eyes seemed to be calculating something, as if he was trying to find a chance of survival. Sure. Ning Fan's tone was still emotionless. However, his eyes that were glowing with green light instantly saw through all the secrets of the Bone Spirit Emperor. Heaven. Celestial Being Realm Cultivator. The face of the Bone Spirit Emperor's primordial spirit was shocked. His fear towards the ghost face cultivator had risen to an unprecedented level. Chapter 1077. When Gu Ling sensed that Ning Fan was a celestial being realm cultivator, there was an unprecedented fear on his face. If he knew that Ning Fan was not at the first level of the heavenly being realm but the second level, he would probably be even more shocked. Become Ning Fan's incense slave. Gu Ling would never have such a humiliating thought. Most of the emperors in the world would rather die than become slaves to cultivators of the same level. This was the dignity of an emperor. Without this spirit, one would not be able to surpass the 9-5 grand tribulation of an immortal emperor and would have died on the path of tribulation. Gu Ling's condition of 1 strike was a scam. He knew that he was no match for Ning Fan at the moment. That was why he wanted to plot against Ning Fan. Gu Ling took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Gradually, his breathing returned to normal and he said to Ning Fan. Since you are willing to receive an attack from me, please come to the small world that I have created. The power of my attack is too great. If it were to affect the disciples of Bone Spirit Peak, I'm afraid that there would be heavy casualties. Gu Ling's primordial spirit drew a line in the air with its small hand. Suddenly, it opened up a void in the stone room and flashed into it. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with an undetectable hint of mockery. Very soon, however, it returned to normal and he followed behind the cultivator in the void. The void was boundless and it was difficult to see its edge. The moment Ning Fan stepped into the void, the entrance of the void crack suddenly closed. There was no sign of Gu Ling in the endless void in front of him. Ning Fan tried to tear open the hollow space of this place. However, he realized that the walls of this place were indestructible. Without the permission of the master of the hollow space, even a low-grade innate magic treasure would not be able to break open this place. Is this your choice, Gu Ling? As expected of an immortal emperor. It seems like you would rather die than become my Joss Flame slave. Ning Fan said indifferently. Humph. I'm a great emperor, so of course I won't be your slave. Even if you're really an 8 tribulation or 9 tribulation immortal emperor, so what? Ghost-faced cultivator, you are too arrogant. You have to know that even if a first-level immortal emperor is heavily injured and his cultivation is greatly damaged, you can't use common sense to judge him. Could it be that killing 2 emperors in a row made you lose your vigilance when facing someone of the same level as you? You have already entered this old man's palm void. Without this old man's permission, it's impossible for you to blast open this place. Ha, this old man will use the rest of his life to refine you to death in this place. I will refine your flesh and blood to provide energy for my body to be rebuilt. Rumble. In the void, millions of meteorites the size of cultivation planets suddenly appeared. Then, all the meteorites turned into a large meteor shower that smashed down with destructive force. The densely interwoven laws of stone sealed the heavens and locked the earth, causing the space here to display an unimaginably sturdy quality. Ning Fan, whose eyes were glowing with green light, could vaguely see that this was the void domain of the stone palm position. It was not Gu Ling who had comprehended the palm void. Gu Ling did not have the ability to do so. There were only a few palm emperors in the age-of-ending illusionary world. It was not Gu Ling's turn. It was something that Gu Ling had obtained from somewhere. This void wasn't completely undamaged either. The interweaving Tao laws within had long been severely damaged. Unless one was the cultivator who created this void, there was no way they could repair it. Even so, the remaining power of the void still gave off a feeling of indestructibility. According to Ning Fan's guess, the original master of this void had most likely cultivated to the peak 9 tribulation realm or even the quasi-saint realm. That was why he could give this void such a strong defense. Besides, because the power of stone was a type of Tao law that could increase a cultivator's defense, the hardness of the void of the stone palm position was slightly stronger than ordinary void in the first place. As a result, even though the void of this place was half destroyed, it could still turn into a cage that had the power to trap an ordinary 6th tribulation immortal emperor. I have given you a chance. You are the one who missed it. Bang! 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 Ning Fan's eyes turned cold under the ghost mask. He summoned the 7 treasures wondrous tree and produced hundreds and thousands of whooshing sounds. Countless stars and meteorites were blown to pieces. The destructive waves turned into violent gales that swept across the place, causing Ning Fan's silver hair to dance wildly and his white robes to flutter. It's actually the 7 treasures wondrous tree. Moreover, it has actually nurtured this tree to such a powerful level. Gu Ling's astonished voice resounded from the depths of the void. Then, he shouted in a deep voice. Ancient stone sword, appear. As he shouted, the Tao of stone turned into hundreds and thousands of the 12 nirvana stone swords and fell from the sky. They could suppress hundreds of immortal venerables in a single blow. If Gu Ling uses his own cultivation base and uses his ability, he would not be able to achieve such destructive power. Only some 8th tribulation immortal emperors would be able to do it. Of course, if he borrows the external power of the void of this place, any ancient cultivator with sufficient magic power would be able to do it. Ning Fan recalled the scene where he witnessed Great Emperor Shen Kong of the Godly Void Pavilion unleashing his ability when Sun Luo was wreaking havoc in the eastern heaven. Shen Kong had once released 40,000 12th Nirvana magic treasures to attack Sun Luo. The momentum of the attack was earth-shattering and earth-shattering, shaking people's hearts. Anyone below the Immortal Emperor realm would definitely die if they were caught in the attack. Compared to Shen Kong's attack, Gu Ling's attack was much weaker. After all, this place was just a half-destroyed void of the palm position. It could not display its full power. Ning Fan no longer held back. He activated the God-destroying giant to defend himself. Then, the giant wielded the 7 treasures wondrous tree and crazily slashed at the swords. Bang! 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 Countless stone swords were broken by the Tree of 7 Wonders, but there were also quite a few stone swords that missed the tree's attack and slashed the god-destroying giant's body. Explosions rang out incessantly, but none of them could break through the giant's defenses. This golden body. Could it be? Could it be? Gu Ling's eyes widened in shock. He had once joined hands with the other emperors to besiege Ning Fan. He had witnessed Ning Fan's heaven-defying defense. Such a terrifying defense was definitely not wrong. The infamous ghost-faced cultivator was actually the external cultivator who had escaped from the middle state in a miserable state a few months ago. This ghost-faced cultivator was actually not an 8th tribulation immortal emperor but an ancient immortal venerate. It's you. Didn't you already leave the holy region? Why are you still here? How did you manage to avoid the Light Buddha's pursuit? Gu Ling cried out involuntarily. Dead people don't need to know too much. Bang! Bang! In just 100 breaths, all the stone swords in front of him were destroyed by the god-destroying giant. Then, the giant tossed the 7 treasures wondrous tree to protect himself. With a wave of his giant palm, the ocean-defying sword turned into a giant sword and appeared in his palm. Then, he slashed at the void of this place for thousands of times. It was not an ordinary slash. It was the Tao-severing divine sword that was getting more and more proficient. To ordinary 6th tribulation great emperors, the void of this place that was reinforced by the Tao of stone was invincible. However, to Ning Fan, it was not a problem for him to be trapped by the Tao of stone at this level. The 5 yin-yang swords that was passed down by great emperor ancient chaos was not to be trifled with. Under the thousands of slashes, the Tao of stone that was intertwined in the void kept crumbling. It could no longer form a palm realm technique to attack Ning Fan. Then, he slashed with all his might. Bone Spirit, who was hiding under the Tao of void, let out a muffled groan and fell out of the void. His primordial spirit's face was filled with fear. How is this possible? Even the palm realm of the previous Stone Man Emperor could not hurt Ning Fan at all. This was the palm realm of the previous strongest expert of the divine stone lineage of the sacred mountain. Even if it was half destroyed, it should not be like this. If I give you the same choice as before, you still won't become my Joss Flame slave, right? The god-destroying giant said coldly. Of course. Who do you think I am? How can I become someone's slave? Do you think I won't be able to kill you after destroying this palm realm? You're wrong. Bone Spirit's primordial spirit opened its mouth and spat out a ray of white light. It moved forward in the void and approached Ning Fan. Ning Fan fixed his eyes on it. It turned out to be a broken low-grade innate palm leaf fan. Whoosh! When the palm leaf fan was within a certain distance from Ning Fan, it suddenly used its ability and fanned at Ning Fan. As soon as it fanned, the Tao of fire in the void was triggered. It turned into tens of thousands of strands of white smoke. The surface of the god-destroying giant's body emitted a burnt smell when it was hit by the countless strands of smoke. Even though its defense was not directly broken, the golden flames were extinguished a little. If one fanning doesn't work, then I'll fan it 100 times or 1,000 times. Under the control of Bone Spirit's spirit sense, the palm leaf fan fanned at Ning Fan for 1,000 times in a short period of time. Under the impact of the fiery smoke, the golden flame armor of the god-destroying giant turned fiery red like a soldering iron. Unfortunately, it was still not enough to burn Ning Fan, who was inside the giant's body, and break his defense. Even the wind fire palm leaf fan of Grandmaster can't burn this external cultivator's golden body. Bang! The god-destroying giant controlled the wondrous tree of 7 treasures to launch a counterattack. It brushed the broken palm leaf fan for 1,000 times, wiping away the precious light on the surface of the fan. After a few more brushes, even the mental connection within the treasure was broken. The palm leaf fan that had temporarily lost control was snatched away by the god-destroying giant. As the mental connection was broken, Bone Spirit coughed out golden blood again. His face was filled with shock and anger. How dare you steal my innate magic treasure? You deserve to die. Bone Spirit's eyes were dark and unpredictable. His primordial spirit performed a hand seal to forcefully suppress his injuries. Then, his spirit sense turned into a vast silver ocean and surged towards the god-destroying giant. The god-destroying giant used the ocean-defying sword and the wondrous tree of 7 treasures to brush the silver ocean. However, all of his attacks were in vain. He could not even touch the true body of the silver ocean. It was actually an illusory sea of spirit sense. What a strange spirit sense secret technique. At the next moment, the god-destroying giant was drowned in the silver sea. Countless spirit sense attacks penetrated through the armor of the god-destroying giant and hit Ning Fan, who was inside its body. The strange spirit sense attack could actually ignore the defense of the god-exterminating shield. It made Ning Fan pay more attention to Gu Ling for the first time. The means of an immortal emperor is really unpredictable. Then, he felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. Gu Ling's spirit sense had already invaded his sea of consciousness. An immortal emperor's divine sense was extremely powerful, especially the great Emperor Boni. He had been cultivating his sea of consciousness all his life, and his divine sense was the strongest among the 5 emperors of the Middle Continent. Very few cultivators below the immortal emperor level could withstand the impact of his divine sense. Ha! It's only the sea of consciousness of an immortal venerable. It's not difficult for me to destroy such a sea of consciousness. Collapse. The Bone Spirit Emperor laughed heartily, but his laughter was filled with disdain. But right after that, he couldn't smile anymore. Collapse. Bang. Bang, 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 bang. Why don't we collapse? I don't believe it, I don't believe it. How is it possible for a mere immortal venerable's sea of consciousness? Fear gradually appeared on the face of the Bone Spirit Emperor's primordial spirit. The level of Ning Fan's sea of consciousness was obviously not high. However, its sturdiness was far beyond his imagination. No matter how hard he tried to attack it, he actually could not hurt Ning Fan's sea of consciousness at all. He finally had a bad feeling. There were quite a lot of risks in invading the opponent's sea of consciousness with his spirit sense. He wanted to quickly withdraw his spirit sense, but it was already too late. Ning Fan's eyes turned cold. The spirit sense that invaded his sea of consciousness was forcefully crushed by the power of his spirit sense. He was a deity with a crippled body. The sturdiness of his sea of consciousness was even higher than most of the immortal emperors. Gu Ling was not as good as him. Puff. Gu Ling's primordial spirit spurted out golden blood. Because too much of his spirit sense had been destroyed, the injuries on his body worsened. Now that he was severely injured, the cultivation base that he could use was too little, and the means that he could use were also too few. He could not use his eternal true body, his innate magic treasure was taken away, and he could not use the palm void. He no longer had any chance of winning. He could only retreat for the time being and plan for the future. Gu Ling's primordial spirit tore the void of the palm void with his small hand, trying to escape from it. However, Ning Fan pointed at him and stopped him at the same spot. Then, he raised the divine refining cauldron high. A large amount of blood light swept out from the cauldron and turned into a ball of blood, trapping Gu Ling, who was filled with shock and anger within it. This is the Eastern Sky Ancestral Emperor's heaven sealing technique. With your cultivation base, it's impossible for you to seal me. Forcefully using it is just courting your own death. Why did you make me unable to move for several breaths? I don't believe it. Besides, you actually have the 7th cauldron of my ancestor. It's the inherited treasure of the Sea Shaman tribe. This cauldron has always been guarded by the Sea Devils of the Sea Shaman tribe. Why is it in your hands? Yes. Yes. You have been to the Sea Shaman tribe before. You have killed Bai Lu there. You went to the Sea Shaman tribe to get this cauldron. Damn it. Damn it. Let me out. Let me out. I don't want to be trapped by this cursed cauldron forever. Gu Ling's primordial spirit's face was filled with despair, and he roared unwillingly. Rumor had it that the god refining cauldron had a curse. That curse was a nameless blood light that could turn into a ball of blood. It could imprison immortal emperors, making them unable to escape in their lifetime. It was rumored that imprisoning the cauldron wasn't its goal, but that it existed to fulfill a certain function of the cauldron. It was rumored that the great despicable divine ancestor had studied this cauldron for his entire life, but he still could not figure out the mysterious use of this cauldron. After the sacred ancestor's death, the cauldron passed through many hands before it was obtained by the first Sea Witch. Since then, it had become the highest prison of the Sea Witch tribe. Any villains who harmed the Sea Witch tribe would be imprisoned in the 12 blood balls formed by the blood light of the cauldron. Damn it, damn it, damn it. No matter how hard Gu Ling struggled, he could not escape from the blood ball. Instead, the more he struggled, the faster the vitality in his body flowed away. It was all taken away by the blood ball and transferred into the tripod. Finally, Gu Ling gave up struggling. His eyes were filled with hatred. I didn't expect this cauldron to fall into your hands. Damn it, damn it. If this old man was at his peak, how could he have been taken into the cauldron by a mere immortal venerable like you? I refuse to accept this. I can't accept this. I don't care if you accept it or not, but you can't kill me. At most, you can only use this divine refining cauldron to trap me for a lifetime. The primordial spirit of an immortal emperor is famous for being difficult to kill. You definitely, probably, can't kill me. Really can't kill me. Gu Ling was still cursing. However, the more he cursed, the weaker his aura became. The more he cursed, the colder his body became. Ning Fan couldn't destroy the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor? No. That's not right, if he couldn't destroy it. How did the immortal emperors of the He clan and the Meng clan die? Could he be the third immortal emperor who died in Ning Fan's hands? No. Refine. As soon as Ning Fan uttered a word, Gu Ling's vision turned black. He screamed and lost consciousness. In just tens of breaths, he was refined into nothingness by the blood light of the divine refining cauldron. Inside the cauldron, there were 220 drops of myriad spirit blood. In the past, when Ning Fan annihilated the Meng clan, he used Ancestor Meng's primordial spirit to refine 230 drops of myriad spirit blood. After that, he took in the cultivators of the Meng clan as his Joss Flame slaves. There were 3 immortal venerables who tried to escape. Among them, there was a third tribulation immortal king who refined 19 drops of myriad spirit blood. As for the 2 immortal venerables, one of them was a second tribulation immortal king while the other was a first tribulation immortal king. They only refined 8 drops of myriad spirit blood in total. It seemed like the higher the level of the cultivator who used the divine refining cauldron, the more drops of myriad spirit blood would be produced. To Ning Fan, the divine refining cauldron was a great method to refine the myriad spirit blood and improve the debilitated body of a divine being. It could help him gradually advance to the level of a postnatal divine being. Of course, the divine refining cauldron was also a great killing tool to destroy the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor. The primordial spirit of an immortal emperor was famous for being difficult to kill. If one could capture the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor alive, he could directly throw it into the bloodlight of the cauldron for refinement. In just a short while, the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor would be destroyed. It was much faster and more convenient than using other methods to kill an immortal emperor's primordial spirit. However, capturing it alive was much harder than killing it. Thus, Ning Fan could only capture it occasionally when he was dealing with severely injured immortal emperors like Ancestor Meng and Gu Ling. However, if it is an immortal emperor who was in his prime, Ning Fan would not be able to capture him, let alone strip his primordial spirit and throw it into the blood sphere to refine pills. The third emperor, Ning Fan's eyes were calm. He was not as agitated as he was when he killed He Zhu. After all, be it Ancestor Meng or Gu Ling, they were both severely injured. That was why he could take advantage of them. After tens of breaths, Ning Fan broke the void of the palm position and walked out from it. Then, he took the general compass of Bone Spirit Mountains formation that he obtained from killing Gu Ling and sealed the formation of this place. Then, he stealthily moved in the night. Some cultivators who came to Bone Spirit Mountain under the cover of the night could not enter the main and auxiliary peaks because the formation was sealed. Thus, they could only turn back. 1 hour later, Ning Fan left Bone Spirit Mountain. The cultivation resources of this place were all plundered by him. Other than a few disciples of Bone Spirit who were knocked unconscious and dealt with, most of the disciples who had a close karmic connection with Bone Spirit were captured by him. Now, there were tens of thousands of Joss Flame slaves with strong cultivation bases. The innate magic treasure, Windfire Cattail Fan, became Ning Fan's spoils of war. Similarly, the void of the palm position that Bone Spirit used previously also became his spoils of war. The night was deep. After Ning Fan left Bone Spirit Mountain, he quietly went to the Laughter Weeping Peak where Buddha Sob Emperor resided. With his speed, it did not take him long at all. Compared to the three flames, there were not many immortal emperors in the middle state on the surface. Most of them were on the sacred mountain. Thus, no one noticed Ning Fan's stealthy movements. After slightly grasping the usage of the spoils of war, Ning Fan played with a black stone man's eye in his hand and quietly entered the depths of the Laughter Weeping Peak. Since he had taken control of the grand formation of Bone Spirit Mountain after killing Bone Spirit Emperor, the people from the outside could not enter the mountain. Thus, they did not know what kind of shocking changes had happened inside. On each peak of the Laughter Weeping Peak, the faint sounds of disciples chanting Buddhist scriptures could be heard. Many Buddhist cultivators were having their evening classes and they continued until late at night. Of course, there were also some disciples who were extremely loyal to Buddha Sob Emperor who were not in the mood to chant Buddhist scriptures. Instead, they were sitting in the Buddhist halls with their faces filled with sorrow and sighing non-stop. A few months ago, Buddha Sob Emperor participated in the pursuit of the external cultivator Ning Fan and was severely injured by the master of the blood martial weapon. His physical body was destroyed and only his primordial spirit managed to escape. The outside world only knew that Buddha Sob Emperor was severely injured but they did not know to what extent. The severely injured Buddha Sob Emperor's primordial spirit was filled with death chi. On that day, he directly fell into a coma and was rescued by some disciples and brought back to the Laughter Weeping Peak. Some disciples who were proficient in medicine predicted that Buddha Sob Emperor was already at the end of his lifespan. Some disciples who were proficient in divination also said that there was black chi on Buddha Sob Emperor's face. He would definitely die in at least 3 to 5 years and at most 30 to 50 years. If Buddha Sob Emperor dies, the Laughter Weeping Peak would eventually decline. Perhaps it was time for the disciples of Buddha Sob Emperor who used to be envied by countless people to find another path. No one knew that the Bone Spirit Mountain was destroyed by Ning Fan that night. Moreover, he did not stop after destroying the Bone Spirit Mountain. Instead, he boldly went to the territory of the Laughter Weeping Peak. Buddha Sob Emperor's primordial spirit was lying on the bamboo mat on the bed of the abode. There was no one beside him to serve him. All the disciples who were serving him had been dismissed by him. As his primordial spirit, he naturally did not wear the strange mask that he used to wear in the past. He was a lean old man with protruding cheekbones. Am I going to die soon? Cough cough. Buddha Sob Emperor's primordial spirit grabbed a handkerchief beside him and pressed it against his mouth. When he took it away again, the handkerchief was already stained with golden blood. The golden blood was the blood essence of an immortal emperor. Even his blood essence was coughed out day and night. He was really reaching the end of his lifespan. That day, I really shouldn't have participated in the pursuit of that external cultivator. If I had left together with old man Lu Tua, I would probably have been able to escape this calamity. He really hid himself well. That old man is really smart. He is so smart that it makes people jealous, but it doesn't matter. Even if he dies, he will never die alone. He wants revenge. It was the master of the blood martial emperor who injured him to this extent. His life was going to end soon. The master of the blood martial emperor had already been captured. Under heavy custody, he could not kill the master of the blood martial emperor with his own hands. However, he could still take revenge on the many subordinates of the master of the blood martial emperor. Rumor has it that after the master of the blood martial emperor was killed, the blood martial arena under Liuli city was disbanded. The low-level cultivators who did not have a deep relationship with the arena went their separate ways. As for the subordinates of the arena who directly obeyed the master of the blood martial emperor, they fled Liuli city to unknown places. Not a single one of the trusted subordinates of the blood martial emperor can escape. Anyway, he won't be able to live for long. No matter what, he must drag a few more people down with him before he dies. Wait a little more, wait a little more. As long as he slightly stabilized his primordial spirit's injuries, he would personally pursue and kill the subordinates of the blood martial emperor. To vent the hatred in his heart. Cough cough. Another series of coughs. All of a sudden, the coughing Buddha Sob Emperor's eyes trembled. He seemed to have sensed a trace of abnormality in the main peak's formation. the primordial spirit's small face suddenly turned around. What he saw made his heart beat wildly, and he could not control himself. Inside the abode, beside the bed, a ghost-faced silver-haired cultivator appeared out of nowhere. In the moonless night, he looked like a ghost. You are," the Buddha Sab Emperor looked at the newcomer in horror. He did not expect to encounter such a terrifying existence before his lifespan ended. Even though he was seriously injured and lying on the bed, he had heard a lot about how terrifying the ghost-faced cultivator was. That was a terrifying existence that killed 2 thearchs in a row. With his current star life fire, he would definitely die if he were to face such an existence. Just as he was about to call for his disciples to save him, Buddha Sab suddenly felt the sky and earth spinning. Then, his entire being was locked in a void. If he still had his cultivation base, he would certainly not be dragged into the void of the palm position by an immortal venerable. However, the current him was completely powerless to resist such power. His cries for help couldn't reach his disciple through the void of the palm realm. Even if he wanted to tear open the void of this place and escape, he could not do it. This is the void of the palm position. Besides, this void of the palm position looks very familiar. It's actually something that Gu Ling obtained by chance in the past. Others might not know about this item, but I who found it at the same time as him knows it very well. Buddha Sab's primordial spirit's small face was filled with fear. He was trying to guess the identity of the ghost-faced cultivator who was standing in the void not far away. Could it be? Could it be? The ghost-faced cultivator who killed 2 thearchs in a row was actually old man Gu Ling? Could it be that Gu Ling also hid his identity as deeply as Lu Tuo? He pretended to be severely injured by the master of the blood martial emperor, but in reality, he deceived everyone and turned into a ghost-faced cultivator to slaughter the world. You guessed it wrong. I am not Gu Ling, Ning Fan said emotionlessly while playing with the stone man's eye in his hand. This stone man's eye was the spoils of war he obtained from killing Gu Ling. It contained a half-destroyed void of the palm position. The half-destroyed void of the palm position was not very useful against a 7th and 8th tribulation immortal emperor. However, it was still somewhat useful against a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. It was even more convenient against a half-dead 6th tribulation immortal emperor, as he could capture them into the void of the palm position silently. That was why Ning Fan used it to invade the smile-crying peak. Unfortunately, Ning Fan had destroyed the power of the Tao law of the palm position when he was dealing with Gu Ling. Because of that, the firmness of the void of the palm position was not as good as it used to be. It could not transform into various abilities to attack the enemy like how Gu Ling used it. Otherwise, the stone man's eye would not only be slightly useful against an immortal emperor realm being. Impossible. You're not Gu Ling. How can you have this stone man's eye? Could it be that Gu Ling has already been? Buddha Sab's body shivered as he guessed the truth. Before I killed Gu Ling, I gave him 2 choices. He could either become my Joss Flame slave or die. If it's you, you would probably choose death too. Ning Fan sighed. Nonsense. Even if I die, I will never become someone's slave. You can stop dreaming. Even though Buddha Sab was afraid, he still spoke in a tough tone. That's a good answer. If it wasn't because you chased after me in the past and you didn't want to take revenge against Shui Wu's subordinates, I might forgive you because of your answer. Unfortunately, you and I are destined to be enemies. Today, I shall return the karma of that day. Ning Fan let out a chi sound and turned into a demonic red ray, rushing towards the Buddha Sab Emperor. Wait. I don't remember chasing after an existence like you at all. This must be a misunderstanding. Can you allow me to explain? Even though the Buddha Sab Emperor said that, his eyes narrowed and an evil thought rose in his mind. He secretly took out an extremely concealed innate magic treasure, trying to launch a sneak attack on Ning Fan. Unfortunately, when the sneak attack landed on Ning Fan's body, it only caused some ripples of magic power. It did not harm Ning Fan's physical body at all. Ning Fan's physical body was too strong. The cultivation level that Buddha Sab could display was too weak. It was only equivalent to an ordinary fifth tribulation immortal king. That sneak attack failed and revealed its true form. It was a low-grade innate prayer bead that was covered with runes of Tao laws. He actually used his physical body to take on the sacred ancestors' Garuda demon subduing bead. Buddha Sab Emperor was incomparably shocked. Then, a seven-colored light flashed in front of his eyes and he was sent flying by the Tree of Seven Wonders. He coughed out blood all the way as he retreated. 1 hour later, Ning Fan left the smile-crying peak with the resources of an entire immortal emperor force and tens of thousands of powerful Joss flame slaves. His next destination was the capital Heaven Peak. Tonight, he came to the middle state to settle his karma. Naturally, he would not let any of the 4 immortal emperors of the middle state who chased after him in the past go free. Of course, before killing them, he would still give the Heaven Emperor 2 choices. However, based on Ning Fan's guess, the Heaven Emperor should be the same as Gu Ling and Buddha Sab. He would not give in. It seems very difficult to make an immortal emperor bend his knees and become a slave. Ning Fan's figure gradually became invisible. The formation at the border of the capital Heaven Peak flickered slightly and then returned to normal. At the same time, the Heaven Emperor who was recuperating with his eyes closed opened his eyes in horror. His silver hair fluttered in the night sky behind him. The karma of the past will be the effect today. You have 2 choices. Which one do you choose? The moment the voice resounded, the Heaven Emperor's vision turned black. He was directly dragged into the void of the stone man's eye. His heart was beating wildly. Ghost. Ghost Face Cultivator. Chapter 1078. As soon as his voice fell, Emperor Tiandu felt the world spinning around him. He was forcefully sucked into the void space by Ning Fan's stone eyes. Cause of the past, effect of the present. You have 2 choices. Become my incense slave or die. In the void space, Ning Fan was like an absolute monarch, looking down at Tiandu from above. Unlike Gu Ling, Bai Hua and Fo Qi, Emperor Tiandu's physical body was not destroyed by the master of the blood martial sect. Instead, his foundation was damaged. His cultivation base fell from the immortal emperor realm and he became a genuine immortal king. It seemed that he was luckier than the other great emperors of the central state because he managed to keep his physical body. However, it was even more unfortunate. It was almost 10 times harder for him to cultivate back to the immortal emperor realm. Emperor Tiandu's expression was uncertain. His thoughts were running wild because of the familiar void space, but when he heard Ning Fan's words, he gradually calmed down. Then, he looked at Ning Fan with a mocking smile. I, Tiandu, have been running wild for my entire life. I can be killed but not humiliated. I will never be a slave. Of course, if it's possible, I don't want to die either. Fellow Taoist, can you let me live? As long as you don't cross my bottom line, even if you want to take away all my life's accumulation or give me some other orders, it's still negotiable. Sure enough, it was very difficult to recruit an immortal emperor as a slave. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Then, he suddenly asked. If I let you go, will you still hate the master of the blood martial sect who destroyed your physical body and injured your primordial spirit? Tiandu frowned slightly but he disdained to lie. Of course I hate her. Will you take revenge? Yes. Since that's the case, I can't let you go. I owe the master of the blood martial sect a life-saving grace. I must eliminate the enemies who hate her. Fellow Taoist Tiandu, you have a backbone. Just like Gu Ling and Fo Qi, I admire you. Even though I won't let you go just because of this, I can let you die knowing the reason behind your death. Ning Fan wiped his palm and removed the ghost face. When Tiandu saw Ning Fan's face, he was shocked and lost his voice. And Ning Fan. It's actually you, a little external cultivator. Impossible. How can the infamous ghost face cultivator be a junior like you? Wait. What did you just say? I'm the same as Gu Ling and Fo Qi. Could it be, could it be? After taking off the ghost mask, the terrifying baleful chi that Ning Fan released after killing the two emperors in one night dyed the dark void space around his palm red. At the same time, the cries of countless ghosts resounded throughout heaven and earth, sending chills down people's spines. It was as if the originally empty void had instantly turned into a living hell. The billions of ghost shadows in hell were all looking at Ning Fan with resentment. They were roaring and crying. Their ferocious aura was monstrous. 10,000 ghosts are here. Above the true immortal realm, there are very few who can form the blood flame phenomenon with their baleful aura. Those who can form the 10,000 ghosts phenomenon must be strong devils who have killed immortal emperors before. Moreover, they can't just kill one or two people, but many more. Even the heavens felt a chill. He no longer doubted the authenticity of Ning Fan's words. This brat was most likely not lying. After killing Ancestor He and Ancestor Meng at San Yen, he came to Debei and quietly killed Gu Ling and Fo Qi. If it weren't for the fact that he already had 4 immortal emperor lives in his hands, it would have been impossible for the phenomenon of 10,000 ghosts to appear. How did you escape the Radiant Buddha's pursuit, fellow Taoist? I can't tell you that. Rumor has it that after you killed Ancestor He of Mu Yen, you went to the Void Flame Corpse Bone Mountain. Could it be that, fellow Taoist has already obtained the inheritance of the 3rd step of the Sword Tao on the Corpse Bone Mountain? Otherwise, how could you become so strong in such a short time? I can't tell you that. In that case, fellow Taoist has already guessed that I wanted to scheme against you in order to comprehend the Sword Tao on the Corpse Bone Mountain, right? Yes. Hee hee. If I knew that fellow Taoist is so strong, I definitely wouldn't have plotted against you and tried to kill you. Now, it's too late for regrets. It's too late. It's too late now. Tiandu smiled bitterly, as if he was regretting it. However, that bitter smile suddenly turned into a hint of viciousness. Then, the void behind Ning Fan suddenly emerged from 3 golden shadows with the chi of quasi-emperors. They charged at Ning Fan with their iron fists. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with mockery. With his wisdom, how could he not see through the series of words that Tiandu had said to him in order to launch a sneak attack? Regret? Hee hee. Even though he had cultivated the communication of all living things, he did not sense the slightest bit of regret from Tiandu's heart. There was only a vicious scheme. Ning Fan activated the defense of the god-slaying giant at the right time, blocking the attack of the 3 golden shadows behind him. He was unharmed. When the 3 golden shadows missed their attack, they once again hid in the void, making it difficult to locate them. However, Ning Fan still managed to identify the chi of the 3 golden shadows during that hasty attack. Interesting, these 3 golden shadows were pill devils that were created using a special secret technique. Since they were able to attain the cultivation base of a quasi-emperor, it was enough to show how high the grade of their pills were. Pill devils were too rare. Even in the sacred place of pill refinement, the Great Bei clan, it was Ning Fan's first time encountering a pill devil. It seemed like these 3 quasi-emperor pill devils were one of Tiandu's trump cards. In that case, Black Devil, He Xiaolian, Ke Gu, the 3 of you, go and play with these 3 quasi-emperor pill devils. Ning Fan waved his hand and released the Tai Su lightning diagram. An ancestral lightning sparrow flew out from the diagram. It had a 5th grade emperor grade Dao soul which was comparable to a 5th tribulation immortal king. Then, he released a tiny person with a lotus root. That tiny person expanded in the wind and turned into a little girl with red lips and white teeth. It was a quasi-emperor puppet. Then, a black shadow flew out from its body and turned into a young girl with no hair. She had cat ears and a black dress. She was the kitten of the 9 raccoons, the Black Devil. He Xiaolian was the name given to the quasi-emperor puppet by the Black Devil. Such a feminine name made Ning Fan speechless. One should know that when he first created this puppet, he followed the template of the burly man. Perhaps it was because the puppet had been stored in the profound Yin world for a long time and was contaminated with the Yin chi of many human cauldrons. The puppet actually began to change its appearance bit by bit. The puppet that was created using the roots of the golden lotus of creation did not have a gender in the beginning. After absorbing the yin qi of the profound yin world, the puppet that looked like the burly man began to become feminine. Even though it still had the body of a bear, its appearance gradually turned into that of a beautiful little girl. It was like a big loli with a tiger's back and a bear's waist. Its appearance was extremely unharmonious. As it continued to absorb the yin qi, it finally transformed from its burly and stocky appearance into that of a petite girl. After absorbing a lot of yin qi, it finally had a gender. Gender, female. Name, none. Originally, it did not have a name. However, when the Black Devil saw this puppet, he directly subdued it as his little sister like a queen and gave it the name of He Xiaoyan. There was no need for gossip. At this moment, Ning Fan released 3 powerful subordinates in succession. The 3 of them immediately engaged in a battle with the 3 quasi-emperor pill devils who were hiding in the void space. Among the 3 subordinates, the Black Devil who had already entered adulthood was the strongest and had the most techniques. She actually had the upper hand against the quasi-emperors who were at the same level as her. When she used a low-grade innate 9 leopard sacrificial treasure, the Flame Moon Ancient Realm, her combat strength was almost on par with some weak immortal emperors. Very soon, she opened many bloody holes on her opponents' bodies. He Xiaoyan was the second strongest. She could only fight the quasi-emperors to a draw. Of course, she still had a slight advantage. When she used an innate sacrificial treasure of an unknown race, she was also able to suppress the quasi-emperors. It was an innate sacrificial treasure that looked like an ancient bell. Ning Fan used his telepathy to read its true name, the Eastern Sea Chimes. Ke Gu was the weakest. After all, his cultivation base was only equivalent to an ordinary 5th Tribulation Immortal King. If his opponents were quasi-emperors, it would be a little difficult for him. Fortunately, he had been in charge of the heavenly Tao for many years. His application of the power of Tao laws was the purest. His comprehension and practical application were even higher than some quasi-emperors. Even though he was slightly at a disadvantage, he was still able to fight the quasi-emperors to a draw. When Ke Gu also used an innate sacrificial treasure that Ning Fan gave him, he directly fought the quasi-emperors to a draw. The innate sacrificial treasure that Ke Gu used happened to be an item from the Lightning Sparrow race. Its true name was the Burning Lightning Incense Cauldron. Ever since it became Ning Fan's slave, Ancient Sparrow had always been a little depressed. However, when Ning Fan rewarded it with the sacrificial treasure of the ancestral Lightning Sparrow, it felt for the first time that it had a bright future by being Ning Fan's slave. If he followed Ning Fan and cultivated until the end, he might be able to cultivate to the immortal emperor realm with this sacrificial treasure of his race one day. On that day, Ning Fan obtained a total of 4 innate sacrificial treasures from the Mountain of Corpses. After distributing them to everyone including Long Sanchue, he did not keep them for himself. He did not lack innate magic treasures. Along the way, he had killed more and more innate magic treasures. Gradually, he set his sights on mid-grade innate magic treasures. For someone like him who had a lot of treasures, just some random rewards could increase the strength of his subordinates. Their combat power was off the charts. Without a doubt, the effects of these treasures would be even greater. Your pill devil seems to be inferior to my subordinate, Ning Fan said with an expressionless face. Humph. Since my subordinate is inferior to you, let's see how my strength compares to yours. You are good at defense and so am I. Let's see which is stronger between my Black Mountain Bear ancestors Kasaya and your golden body. Tian Du raised his hand and summoned a wisp of black light. 10,000 wisps of black golden chi fell from the sky, turning into a thin black Kasaya that was as thin as a cicada's wings and draped itself over his body. Then, he activated his divine ability and actually turned into a 100 zhang tall black bear wearing the Kasaya. It was the immemorial true body that was not in human form. Ning Fan did not expect that Tian Du, who was severely injured and whose cultivation base had dropped, could still use the immemorial true body. As a result, he was much more difficult to deal with compared to Ancestor Meng, Gu Ling, and Fo Qi. After activating the immemorial true body, Tian-du, who was at the peak of the immortal king realm, could almost be on par with some weak 6th tribulation immortal emperors. Of course, even if he activates the immemorial true body, he would not be as difficult to deal with as Ancestor Meng's immemorial true body. Your injuries are too severe. I'm afraid you won't be able to activate this immemorial true body for long. The god-slaying giant showed a ruthless expression. With a wave of his hand, a series of magic treasures including the sea-defying sword, the wonderful tree of 7 treasures and the 5 poison banner were thrown at Tian-du. He did not activate the might of the 3 waters of the one world drowning bottle. That kind of attack could certainly end the battle in an instant, but the backlash was too great. Ning Fan did not plan to enter seclusion to heal his injuries for the time being. Since that's the case, I will rely on the advantage of the number of innate magic treasures and the invincible god-slaying shield to exhaust the severely injured Tian-du. 2 hours later, Ning Fan ended the battle. He used Tian-du's formation compass to seal off the entire Tian-du peak. Then, he secretly captured a large number of disciples of Tian-du and made them his slaves. As for those who did not have deep karma with Tian-du, he let them go. Ning Fan emptied the vault of the immortal emperors in Tian-du Peak. He also took away Tian-du's Black Mountain Bear ancestors' Kasaya and a cauldron of 260 drops of 10,000 spirit blood. Compared to the Battle of Guling and Buddha Tears, this battle took slightly longer because Tian-du had activated his immemorial true body. Unfortunately, Tian-du, who was severely injured and whose cultivation base had dropped, was far less powerful than Ancestor Meng, who was at his peak. He was not Ning Fan's match after all. The sky was slowly turning bright. The night was about to end. Ning Fan left Tian-du Peak and came to Baihua Peak. He was no longer the submissive external cultivator he used to be. He was a ferocious tiger that was released from Xing Huan's prison. He was an evil spirit that came to this place to seek karma. Baihua is the empress, but she is severely injured and on the verge of death. How will she fight me in this state? As soon as Ning Fan activated the purple light, he disrupted the formation power of this place and quietly sneaked into the main peak of Baihua Peak. Baihua, who was trying her best to suppress her injuries in her bedroom, was startled. Her primordial spirit's face was filled with fear. She looked at the figure who slowly walked out from behind the screen. Then, she felt her world spinning and she was directly trapped in the void space where the stone giant's eye was. A burst of purple light swept across her face. Her primordial spirit immediately felt numb. 70% of her remaining strength was actually sealed by that purple light. Originally, she was only equivalent to a 5th tribulation immortal king because of her severe injuries. Now, after sealing her cultivation base, she was only equivalent to a 3rd tribulation immortal king. G-Ghost Mask Cultivator. What do you want to do to me? You can't just kill Bai Lu. Must you kill me? Bai Hua was so frightened that her soul almost left her body. When Bai Lu died, she already felt that she was going to face a great calamity. Sure enough, her calamity was related to the Ghost Mask Cultivator. When she heard that the Ghost Mask Cultivator had killed Bai Lu, she had a feeling that a great calamity was about to befall her. When she heard that the Ghost Mask Cultivator not only had the strength to kill a peak stage immortal king, but also 2 immortal emperors, Bai Hua was so scared that she couldn't sleep at night. With her severely injured body, it was impossible for her to be that Ghost Mask Cultivator's opponent. She had a premonition that the Ghost Mask Cultivator would definitely come to kill her. She had to do something. Thus, she continuously reinforced the 100 Flowers Peak's main peak formation, using almost all the formation materials in the treasure vault. Thus, she asked her friends for help. However, even when she needed the South Sea's spring water for her severe injuries, no one helped her. Now, she might be killed by the Ghost Mask Cultivator. Who would want to get involved in this mess? No one responded to the 100 Flowers Emperor's request for help. Cultivation was a matter of whether a friend died or not. No one was willing to help the 100 Flowers Emperor block this karma. Thus, the 100 Flowers Emperor could only be on tenterhooks. Every day felt like a year. She was very careful and did not step out of the 100 Flowers Peak's formation. Unfortunately, when the night was about to end, that ghost mask cultivator still managed to sneak in front of her and capture her into a void space. In just one encounter, he sealed all of her remaining cultivation base using a bewitching technique. This person's bewitching technique is really heaven-defying. Unless my cultivation base is higher than his, as a woman, I won't be affected by this level of bewitching technique at all. I won't be able to resist it if I'm severely injured. The 100 Flowers Emperor did not plan to resist Ning Fan at all. She gritted her teeth and didn't do anything. Instead, she turned into a flying flower and flew out of the void. Even though the power of the Tao laws of this void space had been shattered by Ning Fan, at least Tian Du and the others who were also severely injured would not be able to escape. The 100 Flowers Emperor, on the other hand, managed to escape under the precondition that she was deeply affected by the bewitching technique. She seemed to be very good at escaping. No wonder she could still escape from being besieged by several Three Flames Immortal Emperors in the past. Fortunately, the 100 Flowers Emperor was the last great emperor of the Central State. Even if she escaped from the void space and caused a huge commotion, it would not be a problem. Ning Fan chased after her in a flash. At this very moment, countless main peaks and auxiliary peaks of the 100 Flowers Peak were brightly lit. Obviously, they were all awakened by the 100 Flowers Emperor. Countless experts gathered at the main peak of the 100 Flowers Peak, but the 100 Flowers Emperor herself was nowhere to be seen. With a thought in Ning Fan's mind, an endless drizzle suddenly spread from the main peak of the 100 Flowers Peak to an extremely far distance. In an instant, he found the direction where the 100 Flowers Emperor had escaped. Hee hee. What a cowardly 100 Flowers Emperor. She actually abandoned the 100 Flowers Peak and ran for her life alone. She is an immortal emperor in vain. Ning Fan did not chase after her immediately. Instead, he soared into the sky and forcefully activated the secret character of force to take over the grand formation at the border of the 100 Flowers Peak. If the 100 Flowers Emperor was not in charge of this formation, Ning Fan's spirit sense was strong enough to instantly seize control of such a grand formation. Of course, this action would cause a huge commotion. It would also consume a lot of spirit sense. That was why he did not do this before. Now, however, he no longer cared about that. After sealing all the cultivators of the 100 Flowers Peak with the formation and leaving, Ning Fan removed his ghost mask, revealing his true appearance and suppressing his baleful qi. No one could see that he was the ghost mask cultivator. When the few remaining peak lords of the 100 Flowers Peak brought their people to this place, what they saw was Ning Fan, who had a faint smile on his face. "Everyone, how have you been?" All of them were shocked. Obviously, they did not expect that the one who caused trouble in the 100 Flowers Peak tonight would be Ning Fan. It's that external cultivator. How did he sneak into the main peak without anyone noticing? Where did Venerable go? He doesn't seem to be here. Damn it! Venerable was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Could it be that this external cultivator took advantage of the situation and killed him? Of course not. Venerable is an immortal emperor. In fact, this external cultivator can be killed by Venerable Immortal Emperor. Besides, Venerable Immortal Emperor's life plate is still intact. Humph. Let's not care about other things first. This external cultivator is the sinner who destroyed Xinghuan. Our 100 Flowers Peak is already in a precarious situation. If we can capture this cultivator, it will certainly be a great contribution. We can even receive the Radiant Buddha's commendation. But we have met this young man before. How can we bear to, humph? Those who don't want this contribution, just step back. Those who want to contribute, follow me and kill this young man. Amidst the commotion, most of the cultivators of the 100 Flowers Peak chose to attack Ning Fan. Only a few people did not do so. Those people basically came from the 6th Auxiliary Peak. They were the subordinates of the Peak Lord, Venerable Ming Feng. Ming Feng looked at Ning Fan, who was about to be besieged, with a complicated expression and slowly closed his eyes. When Ning Fan went up the 100 Flowers Peak that day, he was ordered to stop him. After a fight, he was defeated. He should have died, but Ning Fan spared his life. He owed Ning Fan a life. Even if they were enemies now, he could not join in the attack. He could only suppress the cultivators under his command and not let them join in the attack. Ning Fan's lips curled into a smile. It seemed like not all cultivators of the 100 Flowers Peak did not care about their old friendship. Since that was the case, he would only capture those who wanted to use him to contribute. Qi Ning Fan's body swayed and turned into a red ray, disappearing without a trace. Almost at the same time, one after another, the experts of the 100 Flowers Peak were attacked by the red ray and fell to the ground. Then, Ning Fan skillfully planted restrictions on them and threw them into the incense flame world. He did not waste time talking nonsense with them. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, tens of thousands of cultivators who participated in the attack were all captured by Ning Fan. Ming Feng Immortal Venerable and countless cultivators of the 6th Auxiliary Peak stared at the scene in front of them in astonishment. They could not believe that Ning Fan, who had mediocre combat power a few months ago, would become so strong after a few months. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he captured tens of thousands of cultivators of the 100 Flowers Peak alive. Among those who were captured, there were even a few immortal venerables and immortal kings. One should know that capturing alive was more difficult than killing. One should know that, did fellow Taoist capture those people to be your incense flame slaves? Ming Feng Immortal Venerable's heart was filled with shock. His scalp went numb as he guessed. Yes. Ning Fan smiled. Does fellow Taoist also plan to capture us? Ming Feng smiled bitterly. With the strength that Ning Fan displayed, even if all the cultivators of the 6th Auxiliary Peak rushed at him, they would be killed by him in just a few moves at most. They were not his match at all, no. If you treat me as an old friend, I have no reason to attack you. You're not here to destroy the entire 100 Flowers Peak. You're not here to seek revenge against Lord Venerable. I'm just here to settle the karma. Don't worry. I won't do anything to you. However, I will erase your memories of what happened tonight. I don't want anyone to know that I'm the Ghost Mask cultivator. Ning Fan wiped his face and the silver ghost mask emerged. Under the night sky and the mountain breeze, his silver hair fluttered in the wind. Ming Feng and the others were stunned. They did not expect that Ning Fan was actually the infamous Ghost Mask cultivator. They were so shocked that they could not utter a single word. However, after that, everyone's sea of consciousness was invaded by Ning Fan's indestructible spirit sense. With the reverse spirit technique, some of their memories were erased. Of course, because it was the reverse spirit technique, the damage to their sea of consciousness was minimal. One by one, they fainted on the ground. Forget it. After all, we're just friends. Now that the night is over, let's settle the karma. Ning Fan's body swayed and turned into a red ray of light, disappearing into the treasure vaults of the 100 Flowers Peak. Not long after that, he walked out of the treasure vaults. No one knew what he did inside. Then, he summoned the Black Immortal Cloud and chased after the 100 Flowers Emperor at a moderate pace. He was not worried that he could not catch up to the 100 Flowers Emperor. The 100 Flowers Emperor's speed might be one of the best among the 5 emperors of the Central State. However, compared to the Death Emperor and the Radiant Buddha, she was not on the same level at all. As for Ning Fan, he could even shake off the Death Emperor's pursuit with the Black Immortal Cloud. Even if the 100 Flowers Emperor had already escaped for some time, it was not a big deal. After the time it takes for 2 incense sticks to burn. In the bright sky in the east, the 100 Flowers Emperor kept consuming her primordial spirit and blood essence to increase her speed to the maximum. She was running desperately in the direction of the Glaze City in the Central State. She was not Ning Fan's match. She did not have the strength to resist at all. She had already confirmed this point. If she wanted to escape from Ning Fan's pursuit, she could only escape to a certain place. Only by escaping to the Glaze City could she have a chance of survival. Apart from that, even if she escaped to the Sacred Mountain, she was not confident that she would not be killed by Ning Fan. After all, the sacred mountain was equivalent to the Three Flames continent, and the Three Flames continent was a place where Ning Fan could come and go as he pleased. For many years, I have been searching for an answer. That answer is in the Glaze City. Perhaps I am not real but an illusion. If this is fake, then so be it. But if this is real, I can vaguely sense that the master who created me is in this place. To be able to create me with an illusion, that master must be unimaginably strong. I am going to find her. She will certainly be able to protect me from the pursuit of the ghost mask cultivators. Unfortunately, the 100 Flowers Emperor did not have the chance to escape to the Glaze City. In the bright sky in front of her, a white-robed figure suddenly appeared in a strange manner. It was as if he had torn apart heaven and earth. In just an instant, he arrived. That person's white robes fluttered in the wind. His silver hair fluttered in the wind. Under the ghost mask, his bearing was peerless. He stood in the sky and gently drew a line in front of him, cutting off the dome of heaven and stopping her from advancing. Then, he raised his finger and directly pinned her extremely weak primordial spirit in the sky. Then, hundreds and thousands of purple rays were released, easily binding her primordial spirit into a dumpling. Then, he directly entered the profound Een world together with her primordial spirit. After that, he removed the ghost mask and revealed his true appearance. It's you. External cultivator Ning Fan. Why is it you? The beautiful face of the 100 Flowers Emperor's primordial spirit was a little distorted due to excessive fear. Be quiet. Don't be afraid. Before I figure out the secrets of your body, I don't plan to kill you. How should I put it? It's extremely inappropriate to use the word kill to describe an object that doesn't exist in the first place. I just came to find you to settle the karma. Ning Fan said with an expressionless face. Karma? What karma? Is it because I betrayed our alliance in the Glaze City and hunted you down? Or is it because I used Shi Xing Han Lu to plot against you? Or is it because I betrayed my old friend and attacked your little lover in the Glaze City? Or is it because of my hatred towards the master of the Blood Marshals sect that you want to kill me? The 100 Flowers Emperor screamed crazily. Suddenly, she thought of something and suppressed the fear in her heart. She turned to Ning Fan and revealed a charming smile. I know the location of the sacrificial artifact you want. It's somewhere in the Void Flame. Let me go and I will bring you to find it. Didn't you hear that I have already been to the Void Flame Corpse Bone Mountain? It seems like you only know that the sacrificial artifact is in the Void Flame but you don't know its exact location. Even if I got the information from you that day, I still have to rely on my own strength to find it. Could it be that you have already found the sacrificial artifact? The 100 Flowers Emperor was startled. Inwardly, she thought that this bargaining chip was useless. She could only look for another bargaining chip. Her charming smile became even more enchanting as she spoke. How about this? I am a dignified immortal emperor. How about I let you pluck half of my cultivation base? As long as you are willing to let me go, I will let you do whatever you want. If half is not enough, we can negotiate. 60%. 60% is fine. I should have said it already. Be quiet and don't talk nonsense with me. Pluck you. I am not interested in that. Hee hee. Do you dislike the fact that I have lost my primordial Een? It turns out that you are also such a superficial person. You should know that even though I am not a virgin, my skills in bed are very good. I will certainly satisfy you. The 100 Flowers Emperor tried her best to seduce Ning Fan in order to protect herself. Of course, she could not tempt Ning Fan at all. Ning Fan did not care whether this woman was a virgin or not. If he could really pluck a female emperor and increase his cultivation base, he would have the courage to give it a try even if the other party was a pig demon. Didn't you see that one of my subordinates in 7 Apricot City had the courage to pluck a pig demon? As her master, perhaps, he did not lack such courage. However, this was not the reason why he was too lazy to pluck the 100 Flowers Emperor. At this moment, he was observing the primordial spirit of the 100 Flowers Emperor at a close distance. His eyes were filled with green light. Finally, he found some clues. Sure enough. Sure enough. The feeling that day was not wrong. The 100 Flowers Emperor was not a living person. She was a puppet created by illusion techniques. There was no such person in this world. This person was fake. I can't pluck an illusion puppet. I can't refine the 10,000 spirit blood using the illusion puppet. This person is useless. If I kill her, I can't even increase my baleful chi. Hee hee. Do you want to see my performance? Seeing that Ning Fan was unmoved, the 100 Flowers Emperor hid a trace of resentment in her eyes. She secretly activated some kind of bewitching technique and began her performance. Under the layers of purple light seals, the 100 Flowers Emperor could not display a trace of her cultivation base at all. She could not even self-detonate. However, as the heaven sealing technique had lost its effect, she could still move weakly. Her small hands slowly undid the little clothes on her primordial spirit. Then, she spread her legs and began her extremely bewitching performance. Ning Fan's eyes suddenly turned cold. You want to kill me with your bewitching technique while I am careless, right? Unfortunately, you are still too inexperienced when it comes to bewitching techniques. Originally, I wanted to keep you for a few more days. It seems like there is no need for that anymore. How did you know? How is this possible? Ah! A miserable cry was heard. Ning Fan was too lazy to pay attention to the 100 Flowers Emperor who was still scheming before her death. He directly threw her primordial spirit into the spirit refining cauldron to refine pills. Unfortunately, not a single drop of 10,000 spirit blood appeared even after the 100 Flowers Emperor was refined to death. Instead, there was a ray of light in the shape of a wasp stinger that shot out from the ashes of the 100 Flowers Emperor's primordial spirit. Then, it disappeared into the sky. Lu Tuo once said that under Paragon 10 Wasp's calculations, many of the living beings in the Great Bay tribe were merely illusions. They seemed to possess cultivation, but in reality, they couldn't even be considered as humans. From the looks of it, there is a certain degree of credibility in this. When I entered the treasure vault of the 100 Flowers Emperor, I went to investigate the blood wasps in the vault. Those blood wasps were also illusions. After they died, they also disappeared into the world like a wasp stinger. Even some of the incense slaves that I captured in the incense flame world were just illusions and not real people. The people who used illusions don't only exist in the 100 Flowers Peak. They also exist in the 3 Flames and in every Great Bay grassland. Supreme 10 Bees is a dignified quasi-saint. He spent so much effort to create illusions. What is his motive? I won't believe it if he doesn't have a scheme. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Then, he flipped his hand and took out the 2 Huang's left eye. In the past, Emperor Tu made a deal with him and entered the yellow spring of the 9 underworlds to find the answer. What Emperor Tu wanted to find was engraved in his left eye. When he was in seclusion in the Tower of Time, he would often take out Emperor Tu's left eye and carefully observe his past. He deeply understood this woman's life of cultivation experience. He saw the glorious history of how this woman rose from a lowly position to become the master of the blood martial sect step by step. There was no problem with Emperor Tu's life experience. The problem was the period of time before Emperor Tu was born. The water of the well of vexation reflected Emperor Tu's true past. In that period of time, there was the scene when his mother gave birth to him before he was born. On the day Emperor Tu was born, there was a woman who looked like the sword ancestor who was holding an umbrella. She turned into a midwife using illusions and helped Emperor Tu's mother give birth. Ning Fan's spirit sense went into Emperor Tu's left eye. He sighed and watched the past again. When he closed his eyes, the scene flowed into his mind. It was the day Emperor Tu was born. In an inconspicuous small tent in an inconspicuous grassland in the central state, there were sounds of crying. Inside the tent, a beautiful woman who had just given birth was crying while hugging the body of her daughter who died prematurely. She was the mother of the baby girl. A few women who looked like sisters-in-law and were helping in the tent also had sorrowful expressions. It was a baby girl who was less than a month old. Her body was smaller than a normal baby. Her little face was swollen and purple. She had suffocated to death in the womb. Outside the tent was a middle-aged man with a dark face. He lowered his head and smoked a pipe. He was the father of the baby girl. He did not cry with the women, but his mood was also gloomy. There was only one person who did not cry. Instead, she was smiling. She was smiling as she watched the joys and sorrows of the world. She was a midwife. She was the midwife transformed by Supremacy 10 Bs. When the peanuts die, all living beings suffer. When the peanuts die, the enlightened ones will be saved. Do you all need me to save you? As soon as the midwife spoke, her figure suddenly appeared. She no longer looked like an old woman. Instead, she turned into a bodhisattva who shone brightly. The bodhisattva she turned into was extremely beautiful. However, she looked completely different from the sword ancestor who was holding an umbrella. Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva has appeared. Bodhisattva who saves the suffering and saves the suffering, please save my child. As long as you are willing to save her, I am willing to give up anything. I can exchange my life for her. It was the scene of the mother of the baby girl kneeling and kowtowing. I have 400 million Dharma manifestations. This is one of them. I am the manifestation of saving the suffering and saving the suffering. All living beings have suffering, I will save them. This is a reward for the devout believers of the Buddhist sect. I have the wish to save all living beings. Are you all willing to follow me? I want to save all suffering in the world. Are you all willing to follow me? As long as I am here, I will not let anyone die in front of me. Are you all willing to follow me? Supremacy 10 Bs chanted with a smile. He took the baby girl's body. With a gentle smile, he crushed the baby girl's body with his slender fingers. Under the horrified gazes of the surrounding people, Supremacy 10 Bs used the power of illusion to create a new baby girl. She looked very similar to the baby girl from before. However, she was not a living person. She was just an illusion puppet. That puppet was the Emperor Slayer. Go to sleep. When you wake up, you will forget about your daughter's premature death. This baby girl will be your new daughter. Why would you give your daughter such a name? Ji Qingling. 10 wasps chuckled as he activated his illusion technique, causing the surrounding cultivators to fall to the ground one by one. Ning Fan frowned. The Butcher Emperor was not a real person. He was just an illusion puppet of Supreme 10 wasps. He did not have a real life. Was the extraordinary woman who had rebuked Dabei for countless years a fake? That woman whose every frown and every smile gave him an indescribable feeling, was she fake? That woman who sacrificed herself to save him, was it all a lie? Saving the poor and helping the needy, what a good saving and helping the needy. Ha! It should not be difficult for a demi-saint to save a mortal baby girl who had just died, right? What kind of rescue was this? Why didn't he just save the baby girl? Why was there a need to destroy the baby girl's body and make a new baby girl? Was it because he was afraid of karma? Demi-saints were usually afraid of karma. If he changed the fate of a baby girl whom he did not know, he would be tainted by the karma of the mortal world. However, if he did not change the life of the dead baby girl, he could avoid the karma by just creating an illusion puppet. Was it because of this? Or perhaps, Supreme 10 Wasps did it on purpose and had other plans. Even the premature death of the baby girl was caused by his schemes. Was it to achieve some kind of unspeakable goal? Therefore, he had to sacrifice an innocent baby girl. Sure enough, he did not like Dabei. He did not like this place that was full of schemes. Even if the Emperor Slayer is just a fake illusion, I will still save him. Even if the process of saving him is one of the many schemes of Supreme 10 Wasps, I will still save him. Whether it's real or fake, these things are not important. So what if it's a fake illusion puppet? It's much better than those hypocrites. What is fake? Ning Fan suddenly raised his head. 2 rays of green divine light shot out from his eyes, as if they could see through all the illusions in the world. What is real? The green light became brighter and brighter, almost surpassing the range of the second level of the celestial being realm and approaching the third level. The more Ning Fan cultivated, the more he could not see through what was real. The more he comprehended reincarnation, the more he could not understand what reincarnation was. Then, don't see through it. Then, don't understand. Then, don't awaken. Then, don't understand. I only follow my Tao. I only seek my truth. I only understand my will. I only sink into my oblivion. What is Tao? The divine light in Ning Fan's eyes grew brighter, as if he wanted to penetrate the entire profound Yin world. At this moment, he asked himself the third question in his heart. This question was one of the questions that had puzzled him all the way until today. He gradually understood it but gradually became confused. This question was because he was not willing to acquiesce to all the definitions of Tao in the world. It was a kind of exploration of his own inner thoughts. At this moment, because of the incident of the Emperor Slayer, Ning Fan's Tao heart had actually improved a little. Along with it, he could vaguely see the path to the third level of the celestial being realm. However, he was confused and could not really see through it. When he looked at it carefully, it seemed like the path ahead was already a dead end. There was no path ahead. He could not see the path to the third level of the celestial being realm. Then, is the path behind me? The first level of the celestial being realm is the comprehension of a cultivator's lifetime of cultivation. The second level of the celestial being realm is the condensation of a cultivator's lifelong pursuit of Tao without any regrets. In that case, is the third level of the celestial being realm turning back? Turning back? How should I turn back? Should I go back the way I came? Or should I deny all the previous paths? Ning Fan suddenly coughed out a mouthful of blood and withdrew from the strange state. Because of the incident of the Emperor Slayer, he actually had a trace of understanding about the cultivation of the third level of the celestial being realm. However, because this trace of understanding was far beyond his current cultivation base, he could only devour himself if he forced himself to look and think about it. He could not think deeply about it. The second level of the celestial being realm is rare in this world. What kind of mysterious realm is the third level of the celestial being realm? Throughout my journey, I have used my celestial being Dharma eyes to see through the schemes of my enemies countless times and comprehended the mysterious techniques of the world. If I can go one step further on the path of the celestial being realm, I will be able to reach the peak of the oneness of heaven and man. Rumor has it that the third level of the celestial being realm allows me to see the secrets of reincarnation in the past and present and see the past and future. It is indeed a taboo power. It isn't something that I can easily touch with. Ning Fan wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and consumed a pill to regulate his breathing. After a long time, his injuries were finally healed. He kept the Emperor Slayer's left eye and did not look at it again. He hesitated. After rescuing Empress 2, should I let the Emperor Slayer see the past in his left eye? The Emperor Slayer should have noticed my identity as an illusory figure, right? Indeed, I should let her confirm this matter. Little butterfly, I won't abandon you, I'm sorry. I said something that even I don't understand. I don't know anything about butterflies at all. Next, you don't have to do anything. It's enough for me to settle this matter. I'm very angry. A mere seventh tribulation immortal emperor actually dared to scheme against my people and destroy Xinghuan, huh? Using the entire force of the Great Bei clan to hunt him down, huh? What a senseless scheme. It's too late. It's all too late. This time, it doesn't matter even if I break my promise. Even if the heavens and earth are turned upside down, I won't tolerate it anymore. No one can stop me from killing people. No one can hurt my little butterfly. Why does the Emperor Slayer always say such strange things? What are you going to do after I leave? I, Xinghuan, was destroyed for no reason and became a sinner for no reason. Is it really okay for you to help a sinner and stand against the Great Bay clan? Don't worry. The 5 supreme beings don't care about the affairs of the world. The strongest experts in this world are only the Death Emperor and the Radiant Buddha. Your crime will only attract the Radiant Buddha's attention at most. That old baldy alone won't be able to do anything to me. But your injuries, and your left eye, stop being so long-winded. Leave now. I suddenly feel a little annoyed with you. I don't want to see you again. Why does her words always make me feel inexplicably sad? Ever since I started dreaming about the origin world, I would often talk nonsense. Sometimes, I would suddenly feel an indescribable sadness. For no reason, my heart would feel like dead ashes. For no reason, I would shed tears for no reason. For no reason, I would miss a little fellow whose identity I don't know. In fact, I have already mentally prepared myself for many things. My existence is very likely to be caused by someone's illusion technique. I am not real. I am an illusion. Not only me, many people in the Great Bay clan are just illusions. For example, the 100-Flower Emperor Anne. These are the things I want to confirm on this trip, but they are not everything. I want to find the reason for my tears. I want to find the source of my sadness, find that little fellow. I always feel like I have been waiting for it for a very long time. It's not just for one lifetime but for many lifetimes. I want to know who he is. When you return my left eye to me, I might be able to find the answer from my past memories. Or maybe I can't. Unfortunately, the past you want doesn't have the answer you are looking for. Ning Fan sighed. He did not manage to find the person whom Tu Huang had been waiting for and searching for in the past through his left eye. However, for some reason, when he recalled the time when he killed Tu Huang at this very moment, he could not help but recall the scene of the mountain of corpses and the figure of the sword ancestor. The sword ancestor's hand that wanted to touch him but put down in the end was unforgettable. The scene where the sword ancestor had no choice but to disappear without a trace was hard for him to let go of. Little butterfly, stop sleeping. Wake up quickly. Little butterfly, stop sleeping. Stop sleeping. If you continue sleeping, you won't be able to make it in time for the ancient desolate mountain's new moon every 10 years, only the sword ancestor would have such a gentle call. In the past, I didn't understand why I couldn't find you even after searching for so long. When I truly understood why, I couldn't coexist in the same world as you. I'm afraid you will never be able to find me in the future. You won't be able to find me in any reincarnation. When you find me, you might have already missed me. What did I miss when I didn't understand? The new moon of the ancient desolate mountain will only be full every 10 years. The tide of the Nichin Sea will only rise once every 100 years. The fog of the vast expanse path will only recede once every 1,000 years. The jade peaches of the ancient heavenly court will only bloom once every 10,000 years. The lily of the valley in the heaven desolate ancient realm will only bloom once every 100,000 years. As for me, I'm only allowed to smile once every few million years. I've waited for a long time. I've left a lot for you. I really want to watch the new moon together, even if it's just for 10 years. For some reason, the sword ancestor's figure overlapped with Tu Huang's in Ning Fan's heart. Their appearances were clearly different. But why did he have such a similar feeling? Ning Fan did not understand what that overlap represented. He had countless guesses in his mind but he could not verify them. He was wondering if he had some kind of huge karma with Tu Huang or the sword ancestor in his previous life. Otherwise, why would these two women always give him a strange feeling that was different from all the women he had met before? It had nothing to do with romance. It had nothing to do with feelings. However, it could make him feel as if his heart was being torn apart. With the guidance of Lu Tua Emperor, he could see the truth of the 4 supreme beings of the Great Bay clan. However, there were still some doubts that he could not see through. For example, the sword ancestor and Tu Huang. After a very long time, Ning Fan suppressed the various thoughts in his mind and sorted out the many spoils of war that the 100-Flower Emperor obtained. After killing the 100-Flower Emperor, he did not obtain any innate magical treasure. It seemed like her innate magical treasure had been destroyed by Tu Huang. After that, Ning Fan escaped from the profound Yin world. In a flash, he went to an unknown location in the central state. The sky was completely bright now. However, this day was destined to be a day of unrest in the entire Great Bay clan. The Bone Spirit Peak, the Laugh Cry Peak, the Tiandu Peak and the 100-Flower Peak. In just one night, countless disciples of the immortal emperors were captured. Their whereabouts were unknown, but strangely, their life plates were not broken. The life plates of the Bone Spirit Great Emperor, the Buddha Cry Great Emperor, the Tiandu Emperor and the 100-Flower Great Emperor were all broken. For immortal emperors had fallen in one night. There were rumors that the first 3 immortal peaks were silently destroyed by someone. Moreover, there were not many traces of battle at the scene. The 100-Flower Peak seemed to have caused quite a commotion. However, the memories of the surviving cultivators were all erased, making them unable to remember who the culprit was. However, many experts of the Great Bay clan could guess who the culprit was even if they used their toes to think. There was only one person who could kill 4 of the 5 immortal emperors of the central state in such an unscrupulous manner. That lunatic. That peerless devil. That ghost mask cultivator. The radiant Buddha was finally enraged. In the past, when the ghost mask cultivator attacked the 3 flames, he was not angry. After all, the 3 flames had lost a total of 2 immortal emperors. Even the dead emperor had suffered losses repeatedly. As for the sacred mountain, they only lost a relatively important peak immortal king. In general, he was still gloating over the loss of the 3 flames. However, it was different now. For immortal emperors of the central state had fallen in succession. It was simply a slap to his face. Where was the dignity of the dignified sacred mountain? Forget about the 100-Flower Peak, it was just an illusion puppet. However, the other 3 were all capable subordinates of the sacred mountain. In an empty hall, the radiant Buddha looked at the information in his hand and said angrily, "If I were not busy refining the thunder whip to strip the sword ancestor's love from Ji Qingling's body, how could I allow such a madman to fool around on the grassland? Ba, then you should quickly end Ji Qingling's execution and go catch him personally." Ha! How dare he behave so atrociously under the rule of the sacred mountain? He must be tired of living. A gentle and elegant voice slowly spoke from inside the radiant Buddha's body. The aura he emitted was actually at the level of a second-stage pre-saint. He was slightly weaker than the flame ancestor but much stronger than the ghost ox. "Master Pharmacist, do you mean to bring forward the execution? But if so, where will the thunder force come from? Have you forgotten that there's still the thunderous branch on the sacred mountain?" "Ha, Master Pharmacist, you really have a good plan. It turns out that when you ordered me to secretly push this matter and let the Thunder Force send Lei Tsang to his death, you have already started to scheme against the Thunder Force's immemorial Thunder Cauldron. The immemorial Thunder Cauldron is the first of the 9 great cauldrons of the Southern Medicine Old Man's life. It is refined with the spiritual materials of the 4 Sects Sea region and contains the thunder of Eastern Mountain. If you use the thunder of Eastern Mountain, you probably don't need to refine the thunder whip and can easily strip the sword ancestor's love, right? It's just a little troublesome. Not just anyone can use the immemorial Thunder Cauldron. You've forgotten again. Aren't those external cultivators who are attached to the Thunder Sound lineage very useful? Master, are you talking about those people from the Dark Tribe and the envoys sent by the various powers of the Eastern Sky? If you want them to do something, it's possible, but the price is very expensive. The last time I met those external cultivators, they actually asked me for a sky-high price. Just agree to their conditions. It doesn't matter if the price is expensive. After all, it's the thunder of Eastern Mountain. It's worth the price. Even if what they want is the thunder of Eastern Mountain, we can negotiate and split some of it to fool them. Compared to this price, the sword ancestor's love is more important. Hee. That old man, Flame Ancestor, had imprisoned the sword ancestor's corpse for a lifetime. However, he didn't know that the sword ancestor's essence of the third step sword Tao was not in those empty bones. The sword ancestor cultivated the emotionless sword. However, the strongest part of the emotionless sword was love. Have you ever heard that the sword ancestor who was a mere immortal emperor had once injured the corner of a fourth step immortal sovereign's clothes with his love sword? That trace of love is the essence of his sword Tao inheritance. That old man, flame ancestor, is wrong. I am right. Master's eyes are like torches. What you inherited is the great wisdom of the southern medicine saint. How can you be compared to flame ancestor who only inherited brute force? You don't have to flatter me like this. Go and do your business. Understood. I will go to the Thunder Force now and then execute the punishment in advance. One day later, Ning Fan, who was using an illusion technique to conceal his true body, suddenly heard the conversation of the cultivators in a city of the central state when he passed by. Have you heard? The heinous master of the blood martial sect is going to be executed in advance. Everyone is allowed to go to the sacred mountain to watch the ceremony. Of course. I am more well informed than you. The execution will be held 3 days later. We are not far away from the sacred mountain. If we choose a good spirit beast carriage, we can reach the sacred mountain in less than 3 days to watch the ceremony. Those cultivators who are further away will feel a little regretful. With such a grand occasion, I'm afraid they won't be able to make it to the sacred mountain in time. It can't be helped. Who asked Lord Radiant Buddha to suddenly decide to execute the punishment in advance? However, we haven't gathered enough lightning power to refine the lightning whip of punishment. Why did Lord Radiant Buddha bring forward the execution date? It is said that the Thunder Force helped Lord Radiant Buddha by using the immemorial lightning cauldron. That's why the execution date was brought forward. I heard that the reason why Lord Radiant Buddha brought forward the execution date was to end this matter earlier so that he could focus on hunting down the evil ghost-masked cultivators in the grassland. He killed the 3 flames and 2 emperors first and then the 4 emperors of the central state. Humph. This ghost-masked cultivator is too arrogant. He should be hacked into pieces. I also heard that Ning Fan no longer had the mood to listen to them. His eyes were filled with coldness. Emperor Slayer is actually going to be executed in advance. If there are only 3 days left, I'm afraid I won't have more time to continue improving my strength, Emperor Slayer. Ji Qingling. Sword Ancestor. Chapter 1079. The fact that Emperor Butcher's execution was brought forward greatly exceeded Ning Fan's expectation. At the same time when the news spread, the execution ground for Emperor Butcher's execution also began to be prepared in full swing. Emperor Butcher's execution would be publicly displayed on the sacred mountain. The sacred mountain was the most sacred place of the great humble tribe. It was where the ancestral master of the southern medicine saint was buried. It was the place where countless immortal emperors of the sacred mountain cultivated for generations. It was also the highest temple of the great humble Buddhist Dharma. It was a secret place that was isolated from the outside world. It was hidden in the boundless void and was hidden in the law realm of the Buddhist sect. Legend had it that those who were not devout followers of the Buddhist sect could not set foot on it. Some people called the sacred mountain the ancestral mausoleum, while others called the mysterious and ethereal sacred mountain the spirit mountain, the spirit vulture mountain, the Buddha mountain, the West mountain, and the southern herb mountain. These names were all different, but they all revealed their reverence for the mountain. The sacred mountain would only appear once every 1,000 years. The mausoleum inside the mountain would be open to the outside world. After 49 years, it would hide back into the law realm and wait for the next opening. The opening time would be a few days or 10 days before the second round of the battle. Of course, if there was a huge change in the grassland of the middle state, the mausoleum of the sacred mountain would occasionally appear in advance. At this moment, the 3 rounds of the battle had already ended. Countless people of the great humble tribe were no longer concerned about the ranking of the branches of the sacred mountain in the 3rd round of the battle. Compared to the outdated news, the execution of Emperor Butcher was undoubtedly more eye-catching. After all, it was extremely rare to see a peak 9 tribulation immortal emperor strip off his cultivation base. Moreover, this kind of stripping of cultivation base was not as simple as crippling one's cultivation base. Instead, it was using an unknown method to separate Emperor Butcher's cultivation base and scatter it to heaven and earth for others to devour. During the short period of time when Emperor Butcher's cultivation base was scattered to heaven and earth, everyone at the scene would have the opportunity to absorb and refine his scattered cultivation base, Tao experience, and enlightenment from heaven and earth to benefit from it. The purpose of this execution was to harm a sinner like Emperor Butcher and benefit countless devout Buddhist cultivators. It was precisely because of such benefits that so many people would travel thousands of miles to the sacred mountain to watch Emperor Butcher's execution. Of course, they would not come just to watch the show but because there were indeed benefits to be gained from this trip. It was also because of this that the radiant Buddha would go through so much trouble to borrow the power of thunder to execute the punishment on the imperial butcher. In the sky above the central plains, at the top of the 33rd layer, there was a luxurious burial mountain complex made from the 7 treasures of the Buddhist sect floating there. Golden energy rushed into the sky, Buddhist energy vast and boundless. These burial mountains were the legendary sacred mountains, the holy lands of Buddhism, and also the mausoleums of the great sacred ancestors. There were countless golden divine birds living in the burial mountains. They were called the Garapinja bird by the people of Dabai, meaning the sound of heaven. This bird would not rest unless it was a land of gold. Its cries were like heavenly music, and it had always been regarded as the messenger of Buddhism from the holy mountain. Hundreds and thousands of temples were built on top of the mausoleums. Countless Buddhist cultivators chanted sutras and sang in the burial mountains day and night, recalling the dead. In the center of the countless burial mountains, there was a magnificent temple. It was the favorite gathering place of the Garapinja birds. The Buddhist energy emitted from the temple was vast and majestic. It was like the difference between heaven and earth compared to ordinary temples. The Divine Medicine Temple. This temple was the place where the Medicine Buddha lived. Now, it was managed by the sacred mountain's strongest cultivator, the Light Buddha. This was the place with the highest authority in the Dabai prairie. Any order from the Light Buddha could cause a huge change in the prairie's power. This was the place where Buddhism flourished the most, and there were ancient Buddhist trees that could absorb the Buddhist energy of heaven and earth to nurture ancient Buddhist Tao fruits. There were also rumors that this was the entrance to the sacred ancestors' tomb. Only the cultivators of the sacred mountain, as well as a few people with special identities, were qualified to enter the tomb through this temple. After the sacred ancestor died, his will turned into the sacred mountain with the sacred tomb inside. The 12 meridians were opened, and it contained the fortune of heaven and earth. Being able to enter the sacred mountain to cultivate was a kind of honor, a kind of opportunity, a kind of good fortune. Ordinary Dabai cultivators did not dare to ask for that kind of honor. For them, being able to climb the sacred mountain and listen to the Light Buddha's teachings was already a great fortune. If they could also watch the emperor being tortured during the process and benefit from it, then it was even more fortunate. The sky restriction in the Middle Prefecture was extremely strong. Unless one was an ancient cultivator, it was impossible to fly up to the dome and enter the sacred mountain to listen to the teachings. If ordinary cultivators wanted to go up to the sky to listen to the teachings, they could only sincerely summon the Garapinja bird and ride it up to the sky. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Today was the day of the execution of the Blood Martial Master, who was as famous as the Light Buddha and the Death Emperor. Countless Middle Prefecture cultivators rode spirit beast carriages to the ground below the burial mountains. They summoned the Garapinja bird and rode it up to the Divine Medicine Temple on the dome of the 33rd floor. There were also some ancient monsters of the Middle Prefecture who could ignore the sky restriction, and they rode the mist and clouds to the dome. Above the dome of the 33rd floor, the divine birds flew back and forth to pick up the travelers, and there were also many rays of light flying to and fro. Inside the Medicine Temple, there was a hubbub of voices. It was almost as grand as the 3rd round of the mausoleum, or even more. A barren burial mountain not far from the Medicine Temple had been transformed into an execution ground. At the center of the execution ground, there was a rack that was hundreds of feet tall. It was made of 9-star ancient star iron and was abnormally strong. It was also covered in Buddhist talismans. It gave off a powerful aura and gave off an unfathomable feeling. More and more cultivators gathered outside the execution ground. They were so dense that they filled up the entire execution burial mountain. Some had just arrived, while others had been waiting here for several days or dozens of days. They were all looking forward to the execution. They wanted to watch the emperor being tortured. They wanted a share of the emperor's cultivation. On the west side of the execution ground, there was a huge platform. Only those with a certain status could go up to the platform. The treatment they received was very different from the audience below. There were seats for fruits, and there were also monks serving them. On this platform alone, there were close to 10,000 true immortals gathered. Some had come from the grasslands, while others were experts from the various branches of the sacred mountain. The VIP seats on the platform were exclusive to the 10,000 ancient monsters. There were more than 200 people gathered here, almost all the elites of the sacred mountain's camp. Among these 200 people, there were more than 20 immortal emperors. Apart from the light Buddha, almost all the immortal emperors of the sacred mountain's camp were gathered here. However, the astute great emperor Lu Tua did not come here for a share of the emperor's cultivation. There were also some immortal emperors who could not leave due to trivial matters and had no choice but to miss such a good opportunity. Among the 20 immortal emperors, there were 2 who had reached the 8th tribulation cultivation. One of them was the first ancestor of the Thunder Sound faction, Lei Yunghua. The other was the first elder of the Divine Stone faction, the 4th generation Stone Emperor. Among the many branches of the Sacred Mountain, the Thunder Sound faction and the Divine Stone faction had always occupied the first and second positions. This was because they had 2 living fossils with 8th tribulation cultivation. Compared to the Thunder Sound faction and the Divine Stone faction, the branches of the Sacred Mountain like the Spirit Sect and Chu Lai could only be considered as the weaker forces among the 12 branches of the mausoleum. Therefore, the seats on the platform were the 2 great emperors at the front, while the other immortal emperors could only sit behind them. Brother Lei's complexion doesn't seem to be very good. This old man heard that after Lei Tsang's death, Brother Lei suffered from a series of disasters for some reason. The cultivators of my clan also suffered from bad luck for some reason. This old man did not believe it at first, but looking at Brother Lei's lack of blood qi, I'm afraid that you're already injured. Could it be that you've really been schemed against by someone and got injured by the successive disasters? The Stone Emperor asked Lei Yunghua, who was sitting next to him. This old man indeed seems to have been schemed against by some despicable person. Recently, I've been suffering a series of disasters. I'm afraid Brother Stone is very happy to see this old man in such a miserable state, right? Lei Yunghua's eyes were gloomy as he harumphed at the Stone Emperor. What are you saying, fellow Taoist? Could it be that you suspect this old man is the one who did this? Isn't it? Everyone knows that the 4th Stone Emperor is a different kind of person. He didn't study the position of the Stone Master of our clan but studied some kind of curse technique. There's no one else in the entire Great Bay who can curse me. If I say it's not, then it's not. I've been fighting with you for a lifetime. When have I ever been afraid to admit what I've done? The Stone Emperor narrowed his eyes and sneered. It's really not you. Lei Yunghua was surprised and frowned. The Stone Emperor smiled meaningfully and changed the topic. Old thing, do you really have the heart to give the immemorial Thunder Cauldron to old Guang Guang? Lei Yunghua's eyes darkened slightly. What else can I do? The Thunder Sound lineage can't release the thunder of Eastern Mountain alone. Even with the help of those cultivators from the eastern sky, we still need a lot of resources to complete this task. Old Guang Guang said that after this, 1/3 of the thunder of Eastern Mountain will belong to me, and he will take 2/3. Oh. You actually agreed to such a bad deal? That's the thunder of Eastern Mountain. Humph. If it wasn't because old Guang Guang hid his power better than I expected, I would never agree to give up 2/3 of the divine thunder of Eastern Mountain. You and I have been fighting with each other for a lifetime. Although I've been looking forward to your death and the decline of the divine stone lineage, I still want to warn you. Old Guang Guang's cultivation isn't just what it looks like on the surface. His real cultivation is very terrifying. Lei Yungue said in a heavy tone. There was even a hint of fear in his voice. Could it be that he has already reached the quasi-saint realm? The Stone Emperor was shocked. Oh. It seems like the execution has already begun. Lei Yungue smiled meaningfully and changed the topic instead of talking to the Stone Puppet Emperor. On the surface, the two of them had been fighting for a lifetime and appreciated each other. That was why they were warning each other. In fact, they both had their own plans. They wanted to affect each other's state of mind and leave a shadow in each other's Dao heart. However, they still couldn't escape from their sinister schemes and complicated hearts. The Stone Emperor's eyes turned gloomy when he saw that Lei Yungue was scheming against him. He let out a cold harumph and looked at the center of the execution ground. At this moment, under the rack at the center of the execution ground, dozens of strong men were carrying 100 zhang large golden cauldron with black patterns of birds and beasts. The weight of the golden cauldron was unimaginable. When the strong men walked on it, they left several inches deep footprints on the hard ground of the burial mountain. The golden cauldron contained an unimaginable law of lightning. As soon as it arrived, it forcefully intertwined all the law of lightning in the area, producing a majestic sound as if it came from the ancient times. The enormous aura of lightning made most of the cultivators here short of breath. They were drenched in sweat and their expressions changed dramatically. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the golden cauldron. Their faces were filled with shock, amazement, passion, fear, and reminiscence. The cauldron was none other than the first treasure of the 9 cauldrons left behind by the sacred ancestor, the immemorial Thunder Cauldron. It was a Khanate magical treasure, but not a low-grade one. It was a middle-grade one. The power of a middle-grade Khanate magical treasure was extremely terrifying. If it was fully activated, it could instantly kill an ordinary immortal emperor. Unfortunately, the cauldron was sealed for some unknown reason. Since the death of the Southern Alchemy Saint, no one in the Great Humble clan had the means to open the seal on the cauldron and release its full power. What a shocking aura! Is this the aura of a middle-grade Khanate magical treasure? If it wasn't for the fact that the Lei clan couldn't break the seal on the cauldron, the old ancestor of the Thundercloud Nation would be able to fight against the Radiant Buddha with this cauldron alone. With the Lei clan's strength, it's impossible for them to break the seal on the cauldron alone. That's why they're asking for help from many parties and even offered the immemorial Thunder Cauldron to help the Radiant Buddha execute the punishment. It's possible that they're trying to borrow the Radiant Buddha's hand to break the seal on the cauldron. I heard that the Lei clan made a deal with the Radiant Buddha. If the seal on the cauldron is broken, the Lei clan will only take 1/3 of the Eastern Mountain Divine Thunder and the remaining 2/3 will belong to the Radiant Buddha. It seems like the Lei clan is at a disadvantage in this deal. Disadvantage? Hee. Breaking the seal on a middle-grade Khanate magical treasure will greatly increase the strength of the Thunder Sound clan. How is it a disadvantage? In my opinion, the Lei clan has made a huge profit from this deal. I heard that some outer cultivators from the Eastern Heaven will come to help the Lei clan to break the seal on the cauldron and release the thunder power of the Eastern Mountain Divine Thunder, outer cultivators again. Are they reliable? They won't disrupt the execution, will they? Ha! Fellow Taoist, please don't imagine all the outer cultivators to be evil people. The only one who dares to destroy the punishment ring in our clan is that outer cultivator with the surname Ning. The other outer cultivators are still very well behaved. The rules are indeed well behaved. But I heard that many of those outer cultivators have consumed the cold dew of releasing to suppress the seal on the punishment ring and use their original cultivation base. Cold dew of releasing. That kind of legendary item? It actually exists. There's no harm in this matter. If they use tricks, it's still within the rules. It's fine as long as they don't destroy the punishment ring. I'm afraid that once those outer cultivators have their own cultivation base, they will cause trouble in our clan and affect the execution process. Hee. They won't dare. Almost all the immortal emperors in our holy mountains camp are gathered here. Soon, the Radiance Buddha will come personally. There isn't even an immortal emperor among those outer cultivators. Who would dare to cause trouble? That's true. Only a lunatic would cause trouble in the holy mountain mausoleum that is guarded by more than 20 immortal emperors. We will just wait for the execution to begin and get a share of the cultivation base of the blood martial master. Sigh. Isn't the Radiance Buddha here yet? Soon. Look. It's the Radiance Buddha. He's here. Among the countless discussions, a voice suddenly sounded. Then, all the discussions in the area were suppressed and there was no more noise. It was an unimaginably powerful golden rainbow. It soared into the sky, flew out of the medicine hall and landed at the center of the execution ground, next to the primordial lightning cauldron. A stooped old monk with a face full of stubbles appeared. On his back was a blood-stained sack. That old monk was none other than the strongest expert in the Holy Mountains camp, the deity in the hearts of countless grassland cultivators, the Radiance Buddha. As soon as this person appeared, countless people stood up and clasped their palms together to greet the Radiance Buddha. The Radiance Buddha nodded slightly at the crowd as a sign of respect. He took a small step forward and instantly, countless golden shadows flew out from his body. When they landed on the ground, they turned into golden arhats and surrounded the execution ground. There were a total of 800 of them. Not one more, not one less. All of them were immortal venerables. Hiss. Is this the lost divine ability of the Buddhist sect, the four symbols of humanity? The four symbols of humanity are the self symbol, the human symbol, the living symbol, and the longevity symbol. The Radiance Buddha can create 800 arhats with a single thought. This is the divine ability of the third symbol. Rumor has it that the Radiance Buddha is proficient in this technique. When he travels, there are usually 800 golden arhats accompanying him. Each of them is an immortal venerable. The assassins usually can't even get close to him. I didn't expect it to be true. 800 arhats. What a terrifying scale. He's worthy of being the strongest expert in the Holy Mountain. Not something that can be resisted by humans. Due to the Radiance Buddha's casual divine ability, countless people looked at the Radiance Buddha with even more reverence. The Radiance Buddha opened his mouth slightly as if he was about to speak. The spectators instantly fell silent. Even the immortal emperors didn't dare to breathe loudly. The sinner, Ji Qingling, covered up for an outsider cultivator who destroyed the punishment ring. This is the first crime. She killed many immortal venerables and immortal kings who were dutiful in their duties, as well as the fourth ancestor of the Sound of Thunder, Laitsong. This is the second crime. But in fact, this woman has another serious crime. It's the serious crime of stealing the sacred ancestor's tomb countless years ago. Perhaps not all fellow Taoists are aware of the third sin, so I must explain this matter clearly. This woman is, after all, an immortal emperor under the rule of the Holy Mountain. If it wasn't for the third crime, I wouldn't have sentenced her to such a heavy punishment if it were only the first two crimes. Among all of you, if there is anyone who is even slightly related to the outsider cultivators or has also killed immortal venerables and immortal kings in battle, please don't worry. This level of crime won't make me give you such a heavy punishment today. As for those who suspect that I have embezzled public power and deliberately punished the master of the blood martial weapon, please stop your rumors and don't tarnish my reputation. Although I'm not a person who cherishes my reputation, I don't like people talking behind my back. As soon as the Radiance Buddha's words fell, some people heaved a sigh of relief, some showed vigilance, and more people were shocked. They were shocked by the third crime of slaughtering an emperor that was unknown to the world. The serious crime of stealing the sacred ancestor's tomb. No wonder the dignified master of the blood martial weapon was sentenced to such a heavy sentence just for covering up for an outsider cultivator and killing some experts of this region. It was because he had an even worse criminal record that he was punished for several crimes and his cultivation was directly abolished. Gradually, there was a discussion in a low voice. However, when the Radiance Buddha spoke again, all the discussion quieted down again. It was orderly as if it had been trained countless times. Those who are guilty should be punished, while those who are dutiful in their duties should be rewarded. Today, this old monk will punish the sinner, Ji Qingling. I will strip this woman's cultivation and distribute it to all of you. I hope that all of you will take this woman's case as a warning. Don't take even half a step into the minefield. Be self-disciplined and cultivate your moral integrity. Do your best for the prosperity of our sacred mountain. Do your best. Die 1,000 times. Do your best. Die 1,000 times. Countless cultivators shouted loudly. The crowd was full of emotions. The Radiance Buddha nodded with satisfaction and announced, "In that case, let the execution begin." He untied the cloth bag on his back and made a hand seal. The mouth of the cloth bag immediately opened, and a ray of blood light flew toward the torture rack. After a flash of light, the feeble and dying Tu Huang appeared on the torture rack. His left eye was still covered by a jade eye patch, which covered the empty eye socket. His beautiful face was covered with blood, and his green clothes were stained with blood. He looked extremely beautiful. His right eye, which was the only open one, still retained an inviolable arrogance. His gaze was so sharp that it made people tremble in fear and not dare to look him in the eye. There were even a few cultivators who couldn't bear a casual gaze from Tu Huang. They spurted out blood and fell to the ground. Tu Huang forced himself to stay awake. He looked around and sneered. "I'm really honored to have so many old friends and enemies come to watch the execution. This is the best thing in life. Forget about those mortal enemies, even my old friends from back then wanted to share a cup of cultivation with me. Ha, this is really a friendship of life and death in another sense. I die, and you live." Everyone could hear the sarcasm in Tu Huang's words. As soon as he said this, a few immortal emperors on the platform felt ashamed. However, their shame was soon replaced by greed. They suppressed their guilt and looked at Tu Huang, who was on the torture rack, coldly, as if they were looking at a stranger. You don't have to deliberately mock them. Your old friends are righteous. They won't come to save you because of their personal interests. Just give up. The Radiance Buddha shook his head. Righteous? Ha! Righteous? What a righteous! I like it. Tu Huang burst into laughter. He did not care about those old friends who didn't want to save her at all. She was clearly severely injured and on the verge of death. Her cultivation base would be crippled soon and her life and death would be uncertain. However, she was still talking and laughing as if nothing had changed. She was still as proud and unyielding as before. In the face of death, she was not afraid at all. Or perhaps, you're actually hoping that someone will come and save you when you're in a dead end? Ji Qingling, I didn't expect that you're still so naive after so many years. The Radiance Buddha's eyes flashed with green light. It seemed to be able to see through one's heart. That was the first level of the unity of heaven and man. Hope. I don't expect anyone to come and save me at all. Not only that, but I'm also a little afraid. She was not afraid that Ning Fan would come and save her. She knew that Ning Fan had already left the Supreme Pill's sacred region safely. She was afraid that her foolishly loyal subordinates would come and rob the execution ground like moths to a flame. Her subordinates were a bunch of fools. A bunch of fools who would give a lord like her a random identity. A bunch of fools who would die for their lord. Don't come. Don't come. Tu Huang's expression was stern and fearless. However, he was praying bitterly in his heart. Afraid? You're not even afraid of the terrifying illusory technique of the sacred mountain mausoleum. Yet, you're actually afraid of other things. It's really unbelievable. Humph. Stop nagging endlessly. If you want to kill me, then kill me. If you want to execute me, then execute me. In short, just give me a quick death. I'm tired of seeing your faces. If you want me to die earlier, I'll be reincarnated earlier. Die earlier. So that your loyal subordinates would give up on coming to this place to die. The Radiance Buddha looked at Tu Huang with pity. He felt sad for Tu Huang's foolishness and naivety. I've already given an order. If I can't return safely after I walk out of the arena, they can just go their separate ways. There's no need for them to avenge me or save me. They are all loyal dogs who follow orders. They won't come. Tu Huang snorted coldly and refuted. Loyal dogs who follow orders. This old monk feels that those people are evil wolves who will follow you through life and death. This old monk is really looking forward to their coming. If you don't witness your subordinates dying in front of you, how will you feel heartache? How will your emotions be stimulated because of this? The Radiance Buddha said the last sentence through telepathy. Obviously, he did not want others to hear it. Tu Huang's heart skipped a beat. His right eye widened. Even though he did not know what the Radiance Buddha meant by emotions, he could hear something else. It seemed like the Radiance Buddha had already made a plan. He knew that many of her stupid subordinates would come to the execution ground and die in front of her. Could it be that the dignified Radiance Buddha was actually plotting against the lives of a group of juniors and secretly promoting this matter? When she thought of this, Tu Huang's beautiful eyes immediately turned cold. She gritted her teeth and no longer talked to the Radiance Buddha. She felt a little regretful. She did not regret sacrificing herself to save Ning Fan. She only regretted one thing: she did not directly detonate her primordial spirit before she was captured by the Radiance Buddha. Now that her magic power was sealed, she could not even commit suicide even if she wanted to. She was not afraid of death, but she did not want to betray the benevolence and righteousness. The Radiance Buddha also lost his interest in talking to Tu Huang. He smiled and said to the group of external cultivators who were slowly walking towards him. Today, the execution of the sinner, Ji Qingling, will depend on the abilities of the fellow Taoists of the Eastern Sky. Don't worry, Radiance Buddha. We will certainly not disappoint Radiance Buddha. It was the voices of dozens of Eastern Sky cultivators. Everyone in the world knew that today, the Radiance Buddha had invited dozens of Eastern Sky cultivators to help the Sound Thunder lineage remove the seal of the immemorial lightning cauldron. They wanted to obtain the Eastern Mountain Divine Lightning inside the cauldron and punish Tu Huang. These Eastern Sky cultivators were all people who had designs on the immemorial lightning cauldron. Since this place was the last time the Extreme Pill's sacred region was opened, they joined hands and swore to achieve their own designs on the immemorial lightning cauldron in this final opportunity. Among the group of cultivators who had reached an agreement with the Radiance Buddha, there were people from the Dark Race: Immortal King Do Shi, who was a disciple of Great Sovereign Primal Core; Immortal King Fei Lei, who was a disciple of Great Sovereign Chong He; disciples of Great Sovereign Mo He, and even the thought-shattering old monsters of the Eastern Sky who had been living in seclusion. In terms of cultivation base, these people were a little insignificant in the desolate race, which was full of experts. However, in terms of techniques, these people more or less had some secret techniques that the desolate race did not have. They were of great help in removing the seal of the immemorial lightning cauldron. Because of this, although these people were outside cultivators who were greatly discriminated against, they still received some courteous treatment from the Radiance Buddha. Be careful, these outside cultivators have their own plans. I'm afraid that after the immemorial lightning cauldron is truly released, some people will have bad intentions. Inside the Radiance Buddha's body, the Medicine Buddha's voice reminded him. Don't worry, Your Excellency. Even if these people have ulterior motives, with absolute strength, they won't be able to cause any trouble. Inside the Radiance Buddha's mind, the Light Buddha said confidently. Under the leadership of more than 100 Sound of Thunder lineage boys and girls, the Eastern Sky cultivators were led to the front of the immemorial lightning cauldron. Under the supervision of many experts, each of them used their own methods and joined hands to remove the seal of the immemorial lightning cauldron. One after another, mysterious and ancient formations were displayed in front of him. One after another, the lost divine abilities were used by the cultivators. One after another, rare treasures with huge auras were continuously taken out from the treasure house of the Holy Mountain by the strong men of the Medicine Hall to provide for the use of the Eastern Sky cultivators. There were also more than 1,000 Sound of Thunder lineage boys and girls who were fearlessly sacrificed. Their souls turned into rays of light and unceasingly struck the seal of the immemorial lightning cauldron. 2 hours passed. 4 hours passed. After an unknown period of time, the seal of the immemorial lightning cauldron actually loosened a bit. Sure enough, the reason why we couldn't remove the seal of this cauldron before was because we lacked some secret methods that only the outside world could have. Only with the cooperation of several parties could we achieve this point. Countless holy mountain cultivators had their own guesses. After the seal loosened a bit, an even more powerful thunder power came out from the crack of the seal. Just by relying on the invisible pressure, it directly crushed the bodies of the closest eastern sky broken thoughts, causing them to die tragically on the spot. No one felt pity for those who died. Whether it was the young boys and girls who served as sacrifices or the eastern sky cultivators who died to remove the seal, it didn't matter. As long as they could successfully remove the seal of the immemorial lightning cauldron, as long as they could successfully draw out the eastern mountain divine thunder to execute the Slaughter Emperor. As long as they could finally share the cultivation of the Slaughter Emperor, the crack on the thunder cauldron became bigger and bigger, and several eastern sky broken thoughts were directly killed by the thunder power. All the holy mountain cultivators held their breath, waiting for the moment when the eastern sky divine thunder struck the thunder cauldron, waiting for the delicious cultivation of the Slaughter Emperor. Unfortunately, for some reason, when the seal was torn to a corner, it couldn't be torn anymore. The sacrifices aren't enough. An effeminate young man from the dark race called In Luo Sha said with a frown. As soon as he said that, more young boys and girls were sent out by the Thunder Sound lineage to offer sacrifices to the immemorial Thunder Cauldron. 2,000 people. 3,000 people. 4,000 people. These young boys and girls were all sacrificial offerings nurtured using a special cultivation method. Every single one of them was priceless and would be of great help in breaking the seal of the lightning cauldron. Now that 4,000 people had been sacrificed, even with the foundation of the Thunder lineage, they were starting to feel a little overwhelmed. How many sacrifices are left? Lei Yunguo didn't show it on his face, but he secretly sent a voice transmission to one of the sovereigns behind him. That person was the second ancestor of the Thunder Sound lineage, Lei Jing, who had the cultivation of the eternal 7 tribulations. Less than 2,000, Lei Yunguo frowned and said, judging from the situation, I'm afraid it won't be enough to completely remove the seal. Not necessarily. If our clan's sacrifices are used up, those eastern sky cultivators will most likely have other methods to achieve this. At this time, they are holding back because they want my Thunder Sound lineage to pay more, Lei Jing replied. Of course I understand this matter. It's just that I'm a bit unhappy to be schemed against by such a low-level scheme. The last 2,000 young boys and girls of the Thunder Sound lineage were also sent to this place. In the end, a total of 6,000 young boys and girls were sacrificed. Their bones were piled up into a small mountain, but they were still only able to tear a corner of the immemorial Thunder Cauldron seal. If everyone holds back any more, this old monk will get angry. Light Buddha suddenly pointed out something and reminded them with a slightly displeased tone. Hearing this, all the eastern sky cultivators, including In Luo Sha, were shaken and vigilant. They were afraid that if they continued to be passive and slack, they would anger the big Buddha in front of them and affect the important matter. Everyone, don't continue to hold back. According to the previous agreement, attack with all your strength. In Luo Sha commanded the eastern sky cultivators. Everyone who had secretly made an agreement with In Luo Sha nodded and no longer held back. Each of them urged their methods to the limit. Not long after, the immemorial Thunder Cauldron's seal was torn open at a speed visible to the naked eye. Starting from a corner, it gradually began to spread throughout the entire body of the cauldron. More and more thunder power pressured everyone to the point that they were unable to breathe. Even the ancient first-rank existences were gradually strenuous under this kind of thunder power. Senior 100 feet, if this seal is broken, then everything afterwards will depend on Senior's strength. I'm afraid that the only person who can contend with this world's light Buddha is Senior, who was once a first-rank demi-sage of the Devil Conferral Summit. Yin Luosha's tone was respectful as he transmitted his voice to an unremarkable cloaked old man at his side. Jia, little friend Yin, don't worry. If this matter succeeds, the new Devil Master of the Devil Conferral Summit will certainly not renege on the agreement with your dark race. The cloaked old man transmitted his voice in a hoarse voice. As the seal was torn open bit by bit, the nerves of the cultivators became more and more taut, and their breathing almost stopped. At this time, the atmosphere of the crowd breaking the seal became discordant. Rumble. An unceasing rumbling sound suddenly came from a distance, startling the numerous cultivators here. Countless cultivators sent out their divine senses and discovered that there was a group of uninvited guests who recklessly attacked the Sacred Mountain Burial Grand Formation of the Sacred Mountain Mausoleum. It wasn't that they were all cultivators with astonishing cultivation. The strongest cultivator among them was only an immortal king. They didn't even have an immortal emperor, yet they dared to attack the Sacred Mountain. Some of the cultivators who were shocked at first immediately became disdainful after they discovered the cultivation of the newcomers. On the other hand, the light Buddha smiled as if he had succeeded in his scheme. His smile was filled with indescribable mercy. The newcomers were none other than the trusted subordinates of Tu Huang. There were only 200 or 300 of them, not a lot of people. Their cultivation bases were not the best either. However, the aura they emitted was filled with a kind of madness that even the immortal emperor's divine soul shuddered. Hundreds of moths came to the fire. Tu Huang's beautiful eyes that were fearless finally showed some pain. He closed his right eye. There were tears of blood in his eyes. What shouldn't have come has come. Even if I ask you to leave, you probably won't leave. Tu Huang seemed to be talking to himself. However, the words that came out of his mouth had reverberated in the heaven and earth with an unknown divine ability and were clearly transmitted into everyone's ears. His words were also transmitted into the ears of the hundreds of moths. All the subordinates of the blood martial artists were shocked and sorrowful. However, their eyes became even more resolute. They were sorrowful because they did not have the confidence to save their master. They were resolute because if they could not leave together, they would be buried here together. We are righteous. Together in life and death. The heavens are our witnesses. The blood martial artists are our witnesses. At this moment, all the sounds in the heaven and earth were replaced by the roars of the men of sacrifice.